$1,000 to play a corporate event and a band that's making $8,000 to play a corporate event. Who has the better YouTube video? Who has the better bio, the better EPK? The client has to be able to envision themselves with that person on stage. And if you've just got something you recorded in your room, you can probably land a smaller gig at like a hotel lobby, but that same client isn't going to picture you, oh, I've got 600 people. They're really counting on me to put this out there. So it really is about those tiny details. What does your social media look like? What is your YouTube? That's all I do. I have profiles that I build out for them, and I use what's on your YouTube page, what's on your Instagram. That's what I'm going to put in front of the client when I pitch you. And I pitch you up against 3 other artists that are in the same genre.
Yeah, I was painting the chairs at the space, and nobody else was there that day, so I was like, dude, I'm going to put on some Fellowship of the Ring soundtrack. And it was great, man. I was like, I was seeing everything in my head, as I'm painting. I'm like, dude, this is a good part right here.
The new show, I'm still going to give, hopefully they learn from the first.
Dude, it's hard. It's hard to give them the benefit of the doubt with how many blunders they made. On the front end.
With any show, I try to give them like at least 2 seasons to really okay, this is what we did. Okay, we messed all this up. Give them a chance to fix it before, and then after 2 seasons, I'm like, that's it.
So, but I feel like at a fundamental level, they would have to completely rebuild the character of Galadriel from the ground up, which would be so jarring because when you look at her in the original trilogy, there's grace, there's this kind of like longevity. She feels like this regal, ancient person, and I think Cate Blanchett just like nailed it.
Yeah, totally.
And you're like, look, the Galadriel. I know this has been discussed a lot, but the Galadriel of the new show, she's thousands of years old, and she's acting like a child. Like this is not in the next couple hundred years, she's all of a sudden just going to turn it around after 3,000 years of just like being this petulant child. I was like, nah.
Hey, one day you wake up and
what she's seen, bro.
You make a change.
You have not seen. I was just like, look, you want to dig into the background of your fellow elves? I was like, they've seen plenty, my friend.
What I would do is at that point, I would just be like, okay, that's kind of, we're going to wrap that story up and we're going to move over here to Elrond and we're just over here. Like,
let's just follow Elrond for a couple seasons now.
Not canon anymore.
Yeah, you just disavow all of Tolkien's other works.
No, you have Galadriel bust in season 2, and she's like, that one's an imposter.
Someone said there was a theory that Galadriel's going to cut off the ring from that dude's hand, and somehow Isildur's going to take the credit.
Oh,
in history. That's what I heard.
Bro. Then you have like the unreliable narrator of the new. You're like, we can't even believe like what the narrator of the original trilogy said.
Like, the world of men need a king.
Bro, I would be so trash.
Man.
Nah.
Put it past him.
Yeah.
Whack.
Nah, I thought there were pieces of it that I was like, oh, this is a cool. But again, I felt
now
like it
I'm
was
down for the day.
No, it felt more like.
Sauron is the good guy.
Yeah.
You guys watch House of Dragon?
Yeah.
I watched episode 1 and it was incredible, and then my fiance was like, "You haven't seen Game of Thrones? Turn it off right now." And now we're watching Game of Thrones, and so I can't watch it again until I'm done with Game of Thrones. Apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, you're barely in.
Yeah, I was like, we got.
Yeah, I'm in season 2 right now of Game of Thrones. I missed it. An old hermit.
You gotta do reactions to those episodes.
I was gonna say, I think we could because I don't think any of us have watched all the way through. I know all the, you stay up on it, but no, I think it'd be good to rewatch it because, it's.
Dude, it's gnarly. That first episode, I was like, oh my.
It's really good.
It's really good. It was intense though.
Yeah, but I feel like it's people who understood the true nature of like they had respect for the original kind of material that was written, and so they're like, we want to stay true to a lot of this. I feel like Lord of the Rings were like, we want to tell a story, and we're going to use Tolkien's land as a backdrop, and then we're just going to write whatever story we want. And it's
I feel like that's the Star Wars approach.
Yeah,
people are gonna watch it because they know the franchise.
Yeah, exactly. And
even if you hate it, you're still curious to see it. Like,
I got to see this train wreck. So I got to talk about it.
Like, hopefully, there's some good parts or something.
Yeah.
That's how it feels at least.
We'll give it another season. We'll see how it goes. I don't have a lot of hope.
Are you in on a Wheel of Time?
No, I never got into Wheel of Time, to be honest.
Yeah,
bro, read Wheel of Time.
Yeah,
and then watch the show, and you can be upset with me and everybody else.
I heard that was I heard
it started out okay, and then like they ended it like it just nosedived in the last couple episodes. You're like, this is trash.
Yeah.
We're hoping it's gonna come around. Like I said, I'll give it another season.
Have you seen Westworld?
Yeah, I
And
watched
that was
season 1.
good.
That shit
dude.
fell off. So
Yeah,
bad.
I was gonna say
That
season 1 was
crazy.
phenomenal,
Season
and then it
one was
like,
great. Yeah, I don't know what.
Season 1 was
Yeah.
some of the best. A lot of potential.
Have you watched the Halo show, Vince? Vince is a Halo fan.
Vince,
No, the last Halo thing I saw was Forward Unto Dawn.
Oh yeah.
I was telling the guys though, I have never seen Breaking Bad all the way through, so I just started it. My wife has seen it, and so she's like, "All right, let's watch it." And I can see why people say like this is one of the best shows created, like the writing, the character development, and then I was telling my wife like even the acting. Like before I saw that show, I just knew, like I didn't know Walt, I knew Hal,
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Malcolm in the Middle. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was all I had ever seen that guy in, and so yeah, it's him and Jesse, dude. Like I'm like, shoot,
bro.
this show
hated
is
Jesse.
so intense.
Yeah.
Please, bro, just, like,
Yo,
make
Mr.
some
White.
money.
It's just-
Science.
I read Bryan Cranston's book on Audible. That
Oh,
shit-
nice.
really
Right on.
good. He narrates.
I gotta
it, so.
check that out. Yeah, he's got a great book voice too.
Have you guys read the Dave Grohl autobiography?
No.
It's called The Storyteller, and bro, it's nuts. It's so good. And he narrates it. And it's just him telling stories from his life, and they're just crazy, and it's really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, so Brandon Cranston is Life in Parts or something.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
He tells stories of when he was a TV like telenovela actor or soap opera.
Yeah,
actor.
yeah.
For a long time. He
What?
was, and he did
That's-
theater. He's done like commercials. He was doing all this before he landed Malcolm in the Middle. That was his first like good role.
That's
And then from there he landed like 15 years later Breaking
he can
Bad.
do
So
whatever he wants now.
He said he made it, or when he was like 55 or 58.
Yeah.
But he had like a 30-year career that no one really knew about.
I mean, there's like actors like that where I feel like
The guy
they're
from,
famous as
Django.
yeah.
That's where he was in Django, and he was also
Christoph Waltz.
Christoph Waltz, yeah.
Oh,
same
yeah.
thing.
Like
He
famous as an older guy.
yeah, he
Steve Carell, yeah, right.
yeah.
Yes.
He was in his 40s, and yeah, there's quite a few actors that don't break until their 40s and 50s, and then just kill it. Even Mike from Breaking Bad, his character, like that guy is
Yeah.
phenomenal actor.
Oh,
He
yeah.
didn't break till his 60s, like late 60s. So
Or the guy Gus.
yeah, Gus
Yeah,
Fring. Oh
Gus
my God,
Fring,
what's his
yeah.
name? Juan Carlos Esposito. Yeah,
Now
that,
he's all over the place.
every bad guy. Star Wars. It's just like, do you need a bad guy? It's like,
Bro.
There's certain people that have like a bad guy face.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like even when you see him in a new movie that you didn't really know the plot, you
Yeah.
see, that guy's the bad guy.
I don't trust that guy.
Even cast him.
He's like, it's a child's movie. You're like, he's the bad dude. Like, we know.
Dude, the other day we had it on. My stepson was watching Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Have you
Oh
guys?
my
Do you guys
God.
remember this
I
stuff?
I remember,
remember, yeah.
when I was a kid. It's been like what, I haven't seen it in 20
Bro,
years.
like that and Spy Kids, like bro, these nightmare fuel, dude. So this, I was like, this is crazy.
It's insane gets off as like children's programming.
That's
The villain. I'm like trying to. What's his name?
Bro,
George
George
Lopez.
Lopez.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
in like a giant, like a neck spider, and it's got like a projection of his face, and he's.
Weird,
It was
bro.
weird, bro. I was like, this is not okay. I'm gonna have nightmares about this as a 32-year-old
Hey,
man.
Lava Girl, what's up, is it?
Yeah, it was weird. I was like, this is not okay. How is this okay, dude? The thumb people from
Dude, the
Thumb
Spy
Thumbs,
Kids,
dude.
yeah,
Oh my god.
dude.
Spy Kids was phenomenal though. The
Yeah.
writing in that in the first
That whole
movie.
universe, I think that's
Bro. Machete.
Machete.
Dude.
Chete.
it like ranges like PG children's movie all the way to like a guy using intestines to like rappel off of a wall, and you're like,
Have you ever been to one of his?
Yes.
Have you ever been to one of his taco shops?
no.
Straight
Oh,
up
they were at
tacos.
Coachella 2017,
Oh, cool.
2018. They
Dang.
had like their
Yeah,
2019.
they've got some pop-ups in
Fact
LA. I've been
checker,
to. It's
here we
pretty
go.
cool.
Yeah, it's the same
Yeah.
pop, or I don't know. He has a restaurant.
Yeah, it's like
pop-ups.
it's like a.
They were featured in one of the
Very cool.
little vendors. Oh yeah, and she tagged them. She tagged them on she tagged them at Coachella, like eating tacos or whatever. Then they DM'd her like, "Oh, send us your address." They sent like a swag bag and shit, like with like a shirt. What?
Foodies, I like
lit.
that you cover a lot of food people too, because we eat all over the place.
We eat a lot.
Yeah.
So what's
3 times a day.
Avenida music? So how did it all start? What's like how you describe it? Because
Yeah.
a lot of people are starting asking like, "Oh man, they're opening a new space and people are knowing your name." But like,
And we've seen
What's the
that too. It's so
I
I
tried looking up your I saw that was episode 10 of the podcast, but what happened to the other 9?
So they're there. They're just not live because
Unlisted?
they're unlisted. The YouTube page, we realized, okay, this is where professionals find us to do corporate events and weddings, and it was hard for us to when we first started. So we started back. Vince, Sam, and myself, we're all brothers. We started the band. We've been playing since we were kids, but we started playing together in a garage in 2014. Jamming, family asked us to play a little backyard gig. So we grew up playing in church. And when I got back from college, Vince got back about the same time. We decided to start jamming. And Sean joined us in 2017. So we were doing a little bit of, original stuff. We were doing a little bit of cover stuff, and we couldn't decide what direction we wanted to go in. Do we want to stay true to the art and do the original stuff, or do we want to actually make money? And we decided to make money.
It's always like that, huh?
But all of the social media as a whole, it was really difficult for us to decide, like, okay, who's actually trying to follow us? Who are we marketing this to? So when we put up all the podcasts, it was just, we're just playing for friends. We're doing a couple corporate events here or there, but we want to do some original music. And then we realized, this is a lead generation site. This is where professionals see us. We don't want the podcast to live there. But yeah, that was...
The podcast was just fun. I mean, it was just, we would get together and practice a couple times a week. And at the time, like 3 of us were living at the same house and stuff like that. And we would go and practice, then we'd take a break. We'd go in the kitchen, and then we would just start talking. And we're like, talk for an hour, and we're like, this is gold. Like, we should be recording this. And so then we just was like, let's do that. So then we just started, like, every week getting together and just, like, filming us talking about random stuff. We're like, let's just kind of loosely tie it to music. And then
we're like, we already have the soundboard.
that's
like,
about
it's
it.
already
Yeah,
set
we already
up,
have mics and all that stuff. So it's like, why not? So
yeah.
it was fun. But then, we just kind of got away from it.
Sean was like, I spent 4 hours editing the film. I don't know how to edit anything.
Oh, yeah, I did all the editing for that.
So it
was.
I mean, that one episode I watched, there was a lot of cuts back and forth.
Yeah.
Was it the interview with Frank
Floor? Yeah.
Dude, that took me like a week. That was so. That was the bane of my existence.
Shout out to Frank. That was one of the first. We made a connection with them when they were still in high school.
Starting podcast, video podcast is really hard.
It's so hard, man.
It takes a lot of time, especially if you don't know how to edit and the rendering. You don't have the good computer.
Yeah, well, we realized
stuff.
Every time I wanted to do something, I had to like Google how to do it and then like go in and it's the whole thing.
Yeah, I still Google stuff all the time. YouTube. I'm always watching YouTube. I'm addicted to YouTube. That's like my number one.
Bro.
same. We're all
I wake up, I'm all watching YouTube videos. I'm driving.
YouTube Premium
podcasts.
crew.
Yeah,
Me too,
Dude.
YouTube music.
I tell people,
Never go back, dude.
YouTube
Yeah.
is the only like S tier social media in my opinion. Like it's got short form, long form, with no ads on it. It's just the greatest
that's what it
experience.
Yeah.
And then you get music that's like mixtapes and live performances, all that.
100%.
Everything, dude.
Everything's on YouTube. Yeah,
Honestly. And when then, like, even if you're like, I want to watch this movie, you literally can just find any movie and
could
pay
rent
like
it.
$4, you know, and you rent it,
have
and it's
yeah.
no big deal. But I mean, like, I probably watch YouTube way more than like Hulu, Netflix, HBO all combined. Like, you know, it's just on there. Like, I want to see this band or whatever. I want to see a live. And there's everything from KEXP to like, you know, festivals, whatever. All the like a lot of the covers that we do, we're like on YouTube. Oh my god, you know,
How do they
that's
do
a
this
great.
progression?
That's all. We'll pull stuff off of bands that we follow, and it's honestly one of the reasons why I have like so much respect because we tried these other side projects, like let's do this podcast, and the amount of time that you have to invest in order to even just become like half decent at the craft and then execute on it. I was like, shoot, man, this guy's got to have like, a full-time editor working off to the side because you're running like 4 or 5 podcasts and, doing all the work. So it's tough, man. It's honestly tough to.
It's really hard, but it's that add to Minnie. That's what I'm trying to get to, bro.
Yeah.
So what she's doing right now, she's switching between the cameras. There's no editing.
I see.
So it's kind of you could actually live stream. So we could actually connect to YouTube and go live. I just don't like to do it because I like to edit a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's basically like it records the switches then, and that's like
so the only problem you can't go back if like it was
Yeah.
on you when he was talking or whatever. But
Yeah.
it saves all the time in the world, bro. So the only thing that we edit is like the intro and the outro.
I see.
And unless someone like wants us to remove something or sometimes there's bathroom breaks or something, someone's like, I'll cut it out, whatever.
Well, what's your long-term goal for the podcasting? I've watched like a couple of podcasts, and I know that like on the one hand, it's for content creation specifically for like local musicians, and it's a good skill to have. But like, what do you see this like? You take this 5 years down the road. Are you looking to like monetize this as a studio, or are you looking to develop?
This is what Avenida does.
Yeah.
we ask these questions.
So damn, I haven't really thought about like 5 years. It's because I've been consistent, but also inconsistent. So it's been hard for me. I feel like this last 6 months with the podcast is the most consistent I've ever been.
Yeah.
Before it was like when I started in 2019. And it was the same thing. Like I had to like put the cameras and edit the whole thing. It would take me, a week or two to drop an episode. And then I did maybe like 30 episodes or so, like in the year.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit 2020. So then I was like, I did a few episodes in the beginning, like with friends, just outside a park, like in the, I would do it outside or whatever. And then, and then I don't even know what happened. Like we just kind of stopped. And then I started doing Zoom. Because what I liked is like meeting new people, like in person. You meet them, whatever it is. Like it's a restaurant, another podcaster, an artist, all this stuff, and meeting them in person and having that connection was cool. So doing it in Zoom, and then I went like on Reddit asking for guests and shit. Like, who wants to be in the podcast?
Cool.
And I got a few random people, but they were a little too random.
I was gonna say you're gonna get buried in your yard, man.
Yeah, you go on Reddit. Don't go on Reddit to find guests.
What's funny, I float through like the Reddit, the Reddit forums for like the CV, and it's just like sketchy people. I was like, I would never like meet up with these people for.
Yeah, it's the Wild West on Reddit
It's
for
like,
sure. But so that was 2020. So I kind of stopped because then I got into Call of Duty, and then 2020.
As you do, are you playing the new game?
No, I haven't. So that's the only thing I have to sacrifice is like.
I see.
Not that I still play video games, but not as much as I want to. Like back in the day, I would play 10 hours of Call of Duty.
Dude, new God of War just dropped.
Oh yeah, I see.
I feel like we all went through that. Like, well, what then I think is like the motivation for like doing this many podcasts? Is it just you just love it, or are you trying to build towards something? Yeah.
Well, okay. When you have fun, I do want to build, of course. Like I have personal goals. Like I want this to be as big as possible. The only problem is I'm not niche, or I'm niche, I guess, locally. Yeah. And I could be bigger if I was like if I were to stick to one topic. Like if I was a Lord of the Rings podcast, I feel like all the effort I put in, I would have been a lot bigger now. Yeah. But I don't want to be super niche like that.
Yeah.
I'm a little niche with the Coachella content.
Yeah.
But it's also part of like the community, so I'm like, fuck it, like that's cool, And I don't know. I actually don't know. I just like doing it.
I think like kind of just with the expansion. I mean, the Coachella Valley has expanded so much already, and I think the more that it expands, people are going to continue to see that, and having that exclusive Coachella content is like, oh shoot, like this is where kind of the grassroots is. Yeah. But it's interesting, kind of even what you're saying now, because like talking about Avenida and like, what are we really? Like Josiah was saying, a lot of what we've done as a group has been pivoting. And so, like he was saying in the beginning, really, someone had asked us to play a show, and so we kind of got together and played some music. And then we got one gig at it was like a party for one of the city council members. We got a gig at the party for, they saw us playing outside of the city hall. And so we started playing a couple parties, and then, we started feeling like, oh, maybe we should write some music. And so then we pivoted and we started doing the out in LA Chain Reaction. We started going out there and playing and like recording original stuff. We won a couple competitions where they let us record demos, and so we're like, oh yeah, the Schmitty's one.
Open mic.
Awesome. And yeah, I mean they we got the opportunity to record some music, and so we started feeling like, okay, maybe this is it. Maybe we're gonna just be a recording band and try and make it big or whatever. And then we went through like 17 drummers and like,
almost literally.
We just like, and then Sean Poe came along, man, and that's things really started to kind of shift at that point. And we started kind of realizing, oh, we can really. I think all of us as well. We started getting into serious relationships, and we're like, man, we gotta start making some, decent money and provide. And that's kind of where the pivot came from. Feeling like, okay, we're responsible for other people now, and if we got to make money, and We've always been hustlers, so it's
And it was also about like what was working. So like we were doing cover music and we are doing original music, and I swear like we'd come in, okay, we got to learn 3 new covers this week. We used to give ourselves quotas. So we'd come in, okay, 3 new songs. We'd practice them throughout the week, come in, play them all first try, and then cool, that was great. That was done. Okay, we're gonna spend the rest of practice writing this song. And Sam's like, I have this riff, and we start playing it. And then Si's like, well, what about this? And he starts playing this thing on the keyboard. And then Sam's like, oh, that's not really what I'm thinking. And I was like, well, what if you change it to this? And he says like, well, I don't have that sound. And then Vince is like, well, what do you think about this? And then 20 minutes later, we're screaming at each other.
Yeah.
And so it was just a thing where, you know, I've been in a lot of bands doing original music, and it's just easy and it just works. And for whatever reason, the original thing, in my opinion, wasn't working for this group. Like when we jive with making covers, making them our own, rewriting them, changing them to a different style, different feel, adding different parts. And that was what jived with us, and what doing the original stuff, we decided it just wasn't a strength of ours for this project. So then we separated it. So like Sam and Vince both write original music, and then they'll bring songs to us and we can jam those, and it's great and it all sounds really good. But for whatever reason in the room, it was just not working. And we're like, do we want to keep focusing on this? Or do we want to focus on what's working, which was the covers? So then we started focusing on that.
Have you ever heard of like a SWOT analysis?
No.
Okay, so
The SWAT team.
Sai is a nerd.
yeah, this is
Sai is a nerd.
If you'll dig, it's probably going to be
You have
part.
like a nerd, like
yeah.
a stinger right here. That would be ideal.
So we actually, when Sean joined in 2017, about a year in, we decided, you know what, this is the group that's working. We need to incorporate. And so we went to a lawyer, we saved up money, and we said we would like to become a legal entity with legal business partners. So he drafted we've got this giant stack, big document. It's our articles of incorporation. Avenida Music LLC is the company that we're all vested 25% ownership in. And when we did that, one of the things that he told us was like, okay, I want you guys, we had to build out a business plan, which we had already done, but we really fine-tuned it. And so a SWOT analysis stands for 4 quadrants. It's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And when we sat down, strengths and weaknesses are things that are inherent about you that are either a strength or something that you do really well, or a weakness, an area where you're not, proficient. Opportunities are things that are outside of you. Maybe the area that you live in the country. Maybe it's, hey, we're going through a pandemic or a recession. That's a threat, but I have no control over it. So you do an analysis. You break it down. You say, all right, what are the strengths of this band? And like Sean said, we sat down and on paper, we're like, here are all the things that we're good at. We said, what are the weaknesses? Sean was like, dude, we're not good at writing this music. Like, let's just be real. We're not good at writing original music. And it didn't speak to anything about us as people or us as a band, but we had to come to the realization that when we do this thing, we do it really well. When we do these things, we don't do them well. And then we did the same thing with opportunities and threats. We live in California. We're near several hubs that are prime for, music. We've got Los Angeles, we've got San Diego, we're a couple hours from Vegas, we're a couple hours from,
We have more casinos per capita than anywhere within an hour than anywhere else in the country.
And so we broke down all of these different attributes about us as a group, how we were unique. And then at the end of the day, we're like, well, what do we do with this? What business opportunities can come out of this? Or how can we capitalize on these strengths and these weaknesses? And so we said, look, people want to pay us for the cover music that we do. They like the fact that it's different. Nobody's paying us to write our original music. If we want to turn this into a business, we got to follow that path. And then when we're making money, you'll have plenty of time to write your own stuff. And
I think it should be said, I think if we were to try and do original music now, it would go a lot better.
yeah, yeah.
Definitely would.
And that's because part of the dynamic of the group is the fact that 3 of us are, brothers. And I mean, anybody with siblings knows you're going to have a certain amount of quarreling, fighting, arguing. There's definitely issues of pride, especially when it comes to the creative arts. Yeah. And I know for myself, I used to be the guitar player, and then the guys were like, hey, we need you on bass. And I tell people all the time, I didn't like that at first. I was like, well, what are you guys trying to say? You know what I mean? You just start going off and there had to come a point where I was like, you know what? Like at the end of the day, these are my brothers. You know, like what do I want? Well, I want this group to be successful, and like, should I really be that proud to think like, oh no, I need to be playing this instrument or writing this music or whatever it is? And I thought, you know what? No, I don't. Like the most important thing is that we love each other well, we treat each other right, and that we have a good time doing what we're doing. And that really like changed things around a lot. And I think that kind of uh, relates or speaks to something that we kind of talked about at the beginning. We had a meeting, and I remember Josiah was like doing the SWOT analysis together, and then he said, "Hey, you guys, next meeting, let's talk about those goals. The 1 year, the 5 year, the 10-year plan." And as that meeting went on, there was really like this consensus among the four of us where we said, we have these opportunities here in the valley. What if we become at least a group, not the group, but a group that helps to enrich the music scene? Because we had been playing around town already for a few years, and it was like, man, it's hard to find.
Are you guys originally from the valley?
Yeah,
we all grew
so
up here.
we all grew
guys-
up out here.
You were saying Southern California, this and that. I was like, oh, maybe you guys moved to the valley. So.
No,
So the three of us grew up in Indio, over by the police
Ja-
station on Jackson.
Yeah.
And then Sean Poe was in
Palm
Palm Desert. So we
Yeah.
we know the valley. I love the valley. I like living here. We all enjoyed the stuff that we did growing up, and so we just took a look around and we're like, what can we do to make the music scene better? And everybody that I've talked to, they'll agree. They'll say, yeah, man, you know what? Things definitely need to change for the better. We have certain things that do happen here, like in terms of the local music scene, and it's good, but it could be better. It could always be better. And so that was something that we started to talk about was, hey, what are we going to do to improve the thing we're passionate about? Yeah. And going over to, the space we're going to open, that's kind of what it's all about. It's just opening a space where we can bring groups in just to have an awesome place to play, where they get paid well, and where the community can come out and, hey, it's kids can come out. It's not like a 21 plus place, everybody can just be exposed to it, enjoy it. And so that's been a really big part of, our planning and our vision. And there are times where we have to say like, hey, we got to go back to that, like we don't want to branch too far to any other direction, because ultimately this is where we live. This is where we work. These are the people that we affect, and that we're affected by, I guess. And so we definitely want to be a positive influence on the community.
And I think you touched on something there too. I think Sean is probably the best person to speak to this, like the difference between when we started, what the interaction, the communication, the organizational kind of components were, and then when you compare and contrast those to the kind of communication and the relationship that we have today. I think that's probably like Avenida. It is a business. We see it as a business. It has a bunch of branches that we're pursuing. We have different revenue streams that we talk about. We talk about long-term planning and kind of the future for the Coachella Valley. But at its heart, like, it just happens to be the thing that we're doing. But the biggest effect that I think Sean can probably speak to, like the way that it's changed us as people, like forcing us to be, it's the closest thing to marriage, in my opinion. Sean can probably talk to me.
Like for the longest time, we're talking about like all these, see these guys more than I see my fiance. The wives are like, what are you guys all doing down there? And stuff like that. And we're like, I own a business with this man. Like we have legal documents signed and stuff like that. And it's just, it's a very close relationship, and it has really changed all of us. Like I said, we were all yelling at each other's throats, and it was name calling and all that stuff. And there really has been like a switch to see kind of everybody align, everybody kind of grow. We're all a little bit older now, and to be able to like really effectively communicate, like we can like talk to each other about like a hard topic, like, oh shoot, hey, Vince, you are really great on guitar, but you're better at bass than Sam is. So we need you to switch to bass. And it's like, I remember dreading having that conversation because I'm like, Vince is going to think that we hate him and that he thinks he's not good at guitar, but it's like not true at all. He's just better at bass. And Sam is not better at guitar. Sam was better as the singer at the time. He was like better at having an idea where he was going with his vocals, which means he could fill in things on the guitar to complement that and like a creative aspect on the spot. And so making that switch is really positive. It really improved the group as a whole, in my opinion. But it wasn't because either of them were bad, and it was super hard conversation. And it's really, we've gotten to the point where it's become easier and easier to have those conversations and to and just grow in that way. And especially as we align on our goals. So I mean, at first it was we're just a band and we're jamming and we're getting gigs, and then it was like, oh, we're doing original music. Oh, we're just kidding, we're not doing that. And then we're doing gigs again. And then it was like, we ended up kind of falling into having a space. And we really just had it as like, cool, we have a new space that we can practice
What
in.
was the motivation behind opening the space to help artists? Like,
so the first space.
Why do you guys want to do that? Or what gave you guys the idea?
So the first space that we had, we just kind of fell into it. So AMP was renting, they still are.
That's the Academy of Music
Academy of Music Performance. They had a space, and they had two spaces, and they weren't using the other space. And so we knew the director at the time, Will, like, hey, what are you doing with the space? He's like, nothing really. And we're like, you want to rent it to us?
Yeah.
And so we started getting there just so we could have a place to practice more regularly. We're not
store
in,
gear.
Yeah, exactly. And so we were doing that, and then it just became a thing of like, well, we put a stage in there. So all the guys worked for Desert Arc at a time, and we worked with adults with developmental disabilities and things like that. And through that, we were given a bunch of mobile stages.
Yeah.
And so then we had all the staging. We're like, let's set up a stage. And then we're like, well, if we have a stage, we should let people play on it. There's not enough places to play, and there's especially not enough places. We're really passionate about places for young musicians to play.
Yeah.
Because like I remember coming up in the scene, I remember being 20 and going down like the Village Pub to jam, and I could go up on stage and jam, and then I'd have to go stand in the parking lot and wait until the break was over, and could only be on stage or I could be outside. I couldn't be in the bar. And there's so many places like that, or you couldn't play at all because you're not 21. And it just was like, I'm not there to drink, I'm there to play. It has nothing to do with the alcohol, and nobody cared. And so having places for younger people to play was especially important to us, but just having more places to play. Especially at the time, like that was Schmitty's had just gone under, and it was like that was one of the staples. What do we do now?
The Tilted Kilt had just
gone out. And so these places just kept failing, and so there was just nowhere for bands to play. So we're like, let's have this band come and play, and they played, and then
they brought 100
60
people
showed up on a show that we didn't promote, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is a thing. There's a demand for this, and so then we're like, okay, let's do this again. Let's do it again, and we kind of just started going from there. We're like, we can build this into a thing, and then we ended up not being at that space any longer, but we still had that, like, that fire had been lit for us, like, ooh, this is a really cool thing, and this is something we can do to be positive in the community. And so we had always dreamed of like, okay, we're in this space and it's cool, but it's got its quirks. It's kind of small, so the sound is kind of bad here and there. It's really hard to get a good sound because it's so reverby in there and stuff.
Boxy,
But there was a place on the corner, and we're like, ooh, that building's cool. What if we could be in that building? The next version of this will be in that building. And so then when we were leaving our current building at the time, we just were like, well, let's just ask. And so we asked the city, we're like, hey, what's going on with that building? And they're like, nothing. And we're like, we have a thing. And they're like, show us. So then we wrote a new business plan. This is what we want to do. And we turned it into them. And they're like, okay, but this, and this. And they gave it back to us. And then we did it again. And it was kind of fine-tuning our vision for this space, which was to have a place for people to play, have a live music venue, and a venue that was focused on the live music, as opposed to all these places that are restaurants and bars, and they have music to bring patrons to buy beer and buy food. we wanted to have a live music place, and we're going to sell food and beer to fund paying musicians to play.
Yeah.
And so that's really where that came from.
Yeah, and there's some pieces there. So one, like Sean said, not only is it hard if you're under 21 to find a venue to play, but on top of that, like 90% of the venues out here require you to play a specific type of music on top of that. So even if you are 21 and playing, if you want to make any money or even just get time of day from, any of the booking agents or food and bev managers, you've got to play Brown Eyed Girl, you got to play Margaritaville, you got to play, the Stones, or Spanish music. There's a lot of cumbia. You got to
need to
do
be
it.
dancing, basically.
Yeah. So you're either dancing or your background music. And if you have a metal band, if you're a rapper, if you have original music, you might be able to slip one or two original songs in. But there is no dedicated venue on the east side of the valley for that kind of stuff specifically. And so one of the things that we noticed with the city, and I'll be brief because what was helpful about falling into that area is, I'll be pretty frank, so the city owned the whole block.
Yeah.
And so they purchased it with federal bonds to kind of reappropriate and redevelop the downtown. We were fortunate enough to, through that process, meet people from the city, and then we began digging in. We said, okay, well, what is it that the city actually wants? So the city will release, they have a general plan. They've got a downtown specific plan. So I went in there and read all the city's, it's a 40-page general plan. It's a 22-page downtown specific plan. So when we gave the pitch,
Really boring.
It's very boring. It's very dry. It's just like, these are the kinds of signs that we're gonna want. Yeah, these are the kinds of signs we want. These are the kinds of stores and restaurants that we're gonna want there. And it specifically listed, we want to be a city that's inclusive for live music. We want to have foot traffic during these hours of the day. These are the kinds of events and venues that we want to have happen there. So when we presented our business plan, we wrote it with that plan in mind. So we went back and forth, but we understood what the institution wanted from us as musicians. And so when we fed them those lines, we're like, here are the things. They're like, oh, you're talking our language. This is what we want. And I was like, I know. We read the document. Yeah.
It's like going to the job interview and just let me learn what the company motto is or whatever creed before I go in.
Who just quit? Yeah. Why'd you fire this guy?
Yeah, you do your homework, and then it made it that much easier for us to get in the door.
Yeah.
Another thing to touch on, having artists that are young. If you're 20 years old, most of your fan base is 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
So your people can't even go see you perform.
No,
Yeah,
exactly.
friends who want to go, it's like.
So right now, I didn't have everything. Just kind of been stumbling. So I follow a similar thing with Coachella content because I've been making YouTube videos since 2007, technically, random videos. I mean, old random videos. But in 2015, I was commuting.
Cringe compilations.
Yeah.
Call of Duty, sniping and all that shit.
360 no scope.
Yeah, I had some search and destroy games and all that shit. But 2015, I was reading a lot, like we were saying, Audible. I was commuting and just listening to music all the time. I was like, I started listening to podcasts and then Audible. And then I would go on YouTube to watch what book should I buy next. I was watching YouTube videos on reviews on books and all this stuff. And then it's like, wait, why don't I start reviewing the books I already read?
Yeah.
Since I'm already doing research, might as well just create. So that's when I kind of started doing that. So, man, I've done all kinds of videos. So I started with book reviews, then it was movie reviews, movie first reaction trailers, all kinds of stuff, vlogs. I've tried it all. And then I was going to Coachella every year because, it's local. I love Coachella. It's the best thing in the world. So I was always, my first Coachella video was 2011. It's one of those random videos I uploaded. And then 2017, I made a review of my experience. And then I got a little bit more views than normal. Most of my videos got 100 or less views, or sometimes 200, 300. That one got maybe 1,000. Then Coachella 2018, I made a first reaction to the lineup dropping. It was just my first reaction. And then boom, 10,000 views. Nice. And I was like, what the hell? This is crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, people want to see that. And then a lot of the comments were like, oh, do you have any tips or recommendations or whatever? Then I made a tips video. That one ended up getting more than 15, 20,000 views or whatever. And then I was like, oh shit, people really want this kind of content. So that's when I started doing more. Because I also saw there was no one on YouTube doing actual tips to go to the festival. Any Coachella videos was influencers coming and just vlogging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they don't know the
we're
Well,
area.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Coachella.
how many of those influencers are like living out here, like on the ground floor, of like, oh, cool, this is what's going on. I know the spots in town you need to do you need this thing. I know it's going to be hot this day.
Go
I can
to
tell
El
you,
Mexicali Cafe.
Yeah, right?
Like, that's yeah.
Yeah, so
I know this
that's what
road's
I
going to be
went.
closed. You don't want to go that way. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's I've made like hundreds, like probably over 150 videos just on Coachella, like as part of like following what worked, on YouTube, and
Yeah,
that's how I started
yeah.
building my following through that. And then 2019, I started the podcast at the same time in the beginning of the year.
All right.
And then I was making my strategy was like, okay, 2018 it worked, so for 2019 I'm gonna make a shitload of Coachella videos, because I always say it, but like nothing trends like Coachella for the 2 weeks. Like
Yeah.
like right now the World Cup, you can't escape it for a month.
Yeah.
It's the same shit for Coachella, whether you like it or not. For 2 weeks, it's gonna be on your feed, everybody's gonna be posting.
Yep.
So that year I made like 50 Coachella videos, like Coachella 2019 tips, how to save money, best places to whatever, some lineup videos on the music, and then at the end of the whole like Coachella season, I got like 1.4 million views on like all the videos.
dang.
Like crazy. It was like insane. And then that month, I made like $2,000 off YouTube.
Shit.
Like everything
Dang.
was crazy, bro. Like it was just like an
I've
insane.
made
like-
it.
Yeah.
like, it was like fuck, this is crazy. But then like following Coachella, of course, my whole channel died because I was so niche.
Seasonal business.
It was seasonal. So
Yeah.
then I was doing vlogs, whatever. The rest of the year, some podcasts. Then I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go harder for 2020, and I'm gonna fucking do this, a lot more videos, and then fucking 2020 happened. So, like, literally, all my fucking 2 years leading up to it canceled, and then 2021 canceled again. So I learned a big lesson, put everything in the box. And then 2022, I did it again. I'm like, fuck it, it's gonna happen. It's gonna come back. So
It's got to come back eventually.
come
If I
back
do this
eventually.
every year, it will happen.
can't keep us in forever. So like, then this past Coachella, I didn't make that many videos. It was more like high quality because I already had a bunch of older videos. And then overall, I got like 2.2 million on 2022. So 2023, I'm gonna go
There you
do
go,
another
man.
strategy. But yeah, that's
Coachella
like
Valley video every day.
every day, 365 Coachella videos. But yeah, that's like how I got into one. I just love music. I've been going to Coachella, and then a lot of the artists I started interviewing. My first podcast episode was my friend Billy Dale, who's a rapper.
Yeah, I know. So Billy used to work with us at Desert Art.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's how we met him.
So I played football with him at COD.
Hey, cool.
And,
All right.
and he wanted an interview because I was doing YouTube videos. Like, hey, could you interview me? I just dropped an album. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. But it wasn't even as a podcast, just as an interview. Then when he dropped his second album, he wanted another interview, and I'm like, fuck it, I always wanted to start a podcast. Like, I'm just gonna start it.
Yeah.
So that was actually my first episode with an artist, was with him.
All right.
Then I started, and I was like, okay, I started, like, who else do I get? So I started getting friends, artists. Usually, once you do an artist, a lot of other artists want to come on it. So actually, like, that all kind of happened just randomly. Like, I didn't start the podcast to interview artists. It just kind of like happened,
Just going with what works.
Yeah, that's how it went. And then to throw shows, I never thought about doing shows. I never thought about anything. But I think from speaking to all the artists, the same problem, like we can't perform anywhere, especially like hip hop and like you said, like they're like venues, even if they have live music, it's like they want a specific, you can't be too aggressive, you can't be too disturbing, you can't try new cool stuff because like you might put off the clients or like,
Yeah.
or like you said, they just want people to come buy beer and whatever, make their money, which is understandable as they're business owners,
that's what they're doing.
They gotta pay the bills. But what happens to all the artists, and like no one takes them serious. You're saying you drop original music and no one even wants to listen to your shit. It's like it sucks because like you put so much effort. But it's like another thing I notice is like how, I mean, just in my perspective, like how can you get people to care for something? Is like you have to make it like super badass.
It's got to be good. Yeah.
It has to be good. It has to look good on social media. It has to be something that people have to go see live, or it looks really good. And that's why I ended up throwing the shows and like media first.
I think one of the things one of the many branches of Avenida the business, we actually started, we developed lead generations kind of methods for getting gigs. And one of the booking agencies that we worked with, they're called Acoustic Spot Talent. They're based out of San Diego. They contacted us like a year in, and they're like, hey, our agent is actually leaving for the Coachella Valley. We want you guys to take over. And I was like, well, I don't really know what that means. Like, what does that entail? And so he was like, look, I do all of the booking for DMCs or destination management companies. So it's like a wedding planner, but for like a Fortune 500 company. So if like somebody's coming into town and they're doing a corporate retreat in Palm Springs, they hire this company and they're like, find us the resort, find us the live music, find us the food, find us the cool activities. And so they call Acoustic Spot.
Yeah.
And so Acoustic Spot works with a lot of people out of Los Angeles and San Diego. So these are like most of the time they're artists who have to do whatever they can to pick up gigs, but they're in the industry. These are artists who are like, oh, I've got my own original stuff, but I play with Acoustic Spot just to get by. We've learned through that process of working. Now we're the agents out here. So any Acoustic Spot stuff that comes through the Coachella Valley, we book, and we do all the work for them. So we have a roster of over 300 musicians that we work with. Seeing the level of we'll call it production value. When you see, I'll give you an example. I'll be cut and dry with you. When you see the difference between a band that's making $1,000 to play a corporate event and a band that's making $8,000 to play a corporate event, it's really about the details. And it's like, who has the better YouTube video? Who has the better bio, the better EPK? Who's got the better, who looks like they could, like the client has to be able to envision themselves with that person on stage. And if you've just got something that you recorded in your room, you can probably land a smaller gig at like a hotel lobby, but that same client isn't going to picture you, oh, I've got 600 people, they're really counting on me to put this out there. So it really is about those tiny details. What does your social media look like? What is your YouTube? That's all I do. I have profiles that I build out for them, and I use what's on your YouTube page, what's on your Instagram. That's what I'm going to put in front of the client when I pitch you. And I pitch you up against 3 other artists that are in the same genre. So they'll tell me, hey, I need somebody who's going to play classic rock. So I'm going to put you there. And so what you're saying is correct. I guess that's the whole point that I'm making, is that I imagine that if you are trying to book for a festival, if you're looking through hundreds of applications or hundreds of entries, and it's going to come down to the details. And the difference between the guy making, the skill is right there. The skill is like, it's close. All of these musicians are really good, but it's who took the time to invest in themselves, to invest in their business, to hammer out the details, to present themselves really well. It's a big part. It really is.
Keep forgetting. Come on. I think that maybe is something that I just want to touch on real quick. Whoever hears it, just so you guys know out there.
Yeah.
Vince on a soapbox.
Yeah.
It really is true. There's like this saying, if you want people to bet on you, you got to bet on yourself first. And before Sean joined the group, we were playing backyard parties, Village Fest. We'd play on Thursday nights in Palm Springs. We'd play at the river in Rancho Mirage. We never paid ourselves. It went to the business. So we were investing in, what we saw as the future. And so instead of saying, hey, here's your money, to do what you want with it, it was, okay, we've saved up. Let's go buy that soundboard we've been looking at. Let's go buy those speakers we've been looking at. Let's buy better equipment, better guitars, a better keyboard, better stands, more professional looking mic stands, more professional microphones. So we went like 3 years where we made money but never saw any of it. But now on the back end, we've received literally 10 times as much. Yeah. Because once we had a good product that looked the part, sounded really good, people were like, oh, heck yeah, I'll hire these guys. Like, they do a good job. And so, yeah, like I always would recommend to people, if you're getting started in the scene, don't underestimate the power of that saying, invest in yourself, make sure that, obviously put the time into your craft, practice, bounce your stuff off of people. Hey, what do you think? Does my music suck? Like, ask the questions, but also like Josiah was saying, your social media page, your gear. Even like the small things, like, did you show up on time? Were you respectful the whole time? Or, when there was an issue, how did you respond to it? We've had gigs, weddings, whatever, where something pops off and you're like, shoot, man, like this could turn into a big headache for us right now. But because we handle it in a professional manner, we tend to get, good reviews. People call us back, or they say, hey, I really liked working with you guys, and they'll recommend us to somebody else. So yeah, it really just comes down to all the detail stuff. Yeah. So just to reiterate what he's saying.
Answering emails on timely fashion.
Yeah.
Josiah's biggest pet peeve on the planet Earth.
Yeah. No, I've got emails going to every device that I own. I think I was actually listening to the Blue Sun podcast, and it was really interesting to me because they did talk about that. They talked about like, oh yeah, we don't actually get paid for any of this. They're like, we reinvest into the screen printing stuff and into like buying new. And I was like, that's honestly, that's one of the ways that I tend to judge whether somebody is really serious about their craft is, are they looking for a quick buck? Are they looking for clout on social media? Or are they reinvesting and putting, like, where are you putting your time and where are you putting your money? And I guess to circle back, one of the things that I noticed about when you ask what's the difference between the scene in LA and the scene in, here in the Valley, when I look at some of the high level people that we've played with or gigged with or met playing out of LA, it's comparable skill level. But what they have is you go onto their TikTok, you go onto their Instagram feed, and they're posting at least 1 or 2 times a day. So they've got reels going up every single day, and you can tell. I talked to one of them, and this girl has been on The Voice, and she's probably got about 110,000 followers on Insta and probably 500,000 on TikTok. And I was like, so what do you do? Like, how do you, what's the machine? She's like, I schedule out my days. I'll go into town. She has 2 or 3 other social media influencers in the space that are similar. And she's like, we record like 50 or 100 reels worth of 30-second clips. They go to parking garages, they go to cool spots, and they'll sing the chorus to their original song, 50 times in 50 different places, and then a whole bunch of cool little unique covers. And then she's like, and then I have material for a whole month. That's awesome. And she's like, I'll send you her profile. But you look at it and you're like, oh, what does it take to get to, for her, what's crazy is for her, she was sitting at around 30K followers. She gets 1 follower that turned out to be Lauren Spencer Smith. She blows up and she's like, hey, I want you to go on tour with me. She finishes the tour and goes from 30K to like 110,000 followers off of the one tour. And she was already great. She was already on The Voice. She's already good. But part of it is just the consistency. And when you have a group of 5 or 6 other artists operating at the same level, all of you are pumping out. You're like, shoot, I got to pump out my reels every day because I know they're pumping out their reels every day. We're tagging each other in these. And so there's a level of consistency. It's not that they're better singers, even though they are very, very good. You can tell that they're high level. But the biggest difference to me is that, like, when I look at our socials, I'm like, oh, shoot, we think we're having a good week if we post like 2 or 3 times. And these guys are like, I posted 15 times this week. Damn, and it's just, it's a whole different level of production.
And we've seen consistently, like, every time. If we, for instance, we recorded a whole set of music. We did a full hour-ish that we recorded in downtown Indio. We just set up everything like off of batteries, and we did everything in one take, and we just recorded a bunch of covers. And we posted one of them. Oh, it did okay. Then we posted the second one. It did a little better. We posted the third one. It blew up. And then we didn't post anything. And then our social media died. And then a month or 2 later, we posted another one, and it started to come back. And we've just consistently across all platforms, the secret is if you post all the time, you will grow.
It's so simple. It's really
it's that simple, and it doesn't even necessarily.
We all know what to do, and then like there's something that just like I for me like I have like too many pages. Like fuck, bro, it's I have like 15 Instagrams.
Nice.
I have a bunch of
all of his views are himself.
No, I have a bunch of Instagrams that I just got the ads. So I have like at Coachella Valley News.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so they can all like each other's face. Right?
No, I have them like as a, what do you call them? Like a domain name.
Yeah. We did that.
I have a bunch of them saved out just in case for something.
Yeah.
No, but I have so my personal one, then Desert Underground. And then it used to be called Best of Indio, and I used to post pictures of like the city.
I remember that.
That was like my. I was just post pictures of the city, and then I don't know. I kind of stopped taking pictures of the city, and I had that account for like.
I've seen all of it. I did the whole thing.
And then eventually, I was like, I changed it to Stoy Filming, which was like my video production company, but I liked it because I was making money, like shooting weddings, commercials for local businesses and stuff like that. Because from YouTube, I learned how to make videos, all watching YouTube videos and you know the same stuff, YouTube University and all that. And I wanted to like, I'm like, okay, if I could get a bunch of corporate gigs and do all these videos, but I had way more fun doing music. Yeah, like the music stuff that's like, it's just so much fun just being around all that. So I started doing that, and then like this year, I knew also like you have to sacrifice some stuff. So like you said, video games, like I wish I could be playing Call of Duty fucking 7 hours a day. Yeah, but I have to edit like and post and all this other stuff, which is also cool too. You know, it's not. Yeah, it's like
absolutely
investing with time.
There's like a YouTube channel, they're called the Game Grumps, and they just do like there's a Let's Play channel, and they just like make jokes and play games all day, and they're the best. And I used to watch them every day. They post like several times a day. It's like hours of content, and I see them keep coming up, and I can't watch any of it. I haven't watched them in like in months because I'm like I gotta do this other stuff. I'm like yeah. I feel you.
You evolve with this, so. So I have There's Underground. So that was from a video production. Then to There's Underground. Once we did the show, and then so I had like this thing. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to create like an online platform for local artists and just like post high quality videos. And I haven't charged any of them for. Yeah. I mean, I'm investing a lot to like even just edit the videos. Like the first show, it took me like a month to get them all out. Yeah, it was freaking 25-minute sets with like 4 cameras, bro. It was crazy. I was just fucking editing. So, but that actually made me so much better at like mass producing content. So that one show, now when I edit like one song, I'm like, oh, this is easy, bro. It's like 3 minutes. I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah. And plus, you got all that promo material now. You're like, oh yeah, like you want to see what I've done? Oh, here's.
And then that show was 10 times better than I expected. The first show was insane. That it's just crazy. I still can't believe like it happened. So, we were able to do that show, and then we were like, okay, let's do one with like the Mexican groups, and then we did that one, and then like other venues are like hitting us up to do stuff at their stuff, and it's been crazy. Yeah. It's been 4 months, and like I said, I never planned this, so it's like right now I'm still trying to decide like. What I want to do, you know, like there's a lot, but the podcast that started off of that too. So going back to Coachella, I was at Coachella and I met with 2 dudes, those Casa Resacas. They play Sierreño. Okay. I ran 2 of the guys. We were at Coachella. We ran into them randomly, and then because I had them at Coachella, I invited them to the podcast. Like, oh, you guys want to come to the podcast? We could talk about Coachella, whatever. And then they're like, oh, we'll bring our guitars and we'll play a couple songs. And that's literally what started the whole thing. Like, when I saw that in the studio, I'm like, wait, what? Like, I could have, like, music with the interviews? I'm like, fuck, that shit was, like, I never thought of it. Yeah. And then I did, like, 3 episodes with like, whatever the camera picked up, that was the audio. Yeah. And then one of the guys that was here, Ephraim from EAC Studios, he actually has a recording studio here in Coachella. Okay. And he's like, oh, if you want, like, I could actually record the instruments directly, you know, get like good audio. Yeah. So we started a new podcast in Spanish for that style of music. So I've seen that. Yeah. Cotorreando Talento. So we'll interview the artists and then we'll have them play. Sometimes it's 2 songs. Some of them do 5. Yeah. And he mixes and masters the audio and I do the video.
That's awesome.
We integrated with the interview and that shit's been like such a great show.
Yeah, I saw it
on TikTok. Yeah, we had some videos do pretty well. And the same strategy, posting. So for like 2 weeks before the show, I was like, fuck, we need to get to 1,000 followers because you could go live or whatever.
Yeah, unlocks all the features.
So we had like 700, and then that's when I was like, you know what, I'm going to go hard with like posting daily. So I was posting twice a day for like 2 weeks. And then by posting so much, some of those videos started going like crazy views. Like I was like, first it's 100, 200, you're posting, and then like one of them get like 7,000 and boom. Yeah. And I don't know, one of them got 100,000 views. Bruh. Another one got like 20,000. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. Carried that momentum. We got over 1,000 within like a day after just posting. Like, it was crazy. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I follow a lot of the channels, and I think that's honestly how we found you. I saw somebody cross-posted. I can't even remember who it was, and I was like, oh, hey, I'll have to check this out later. And then something else pops up, and you know how YouTube starts reading your mind, and you're just like, oh shoot. And so I started going down the rabbit hole. I looked for interviews actually on the Everbloom guys. And I know that, I was like looking around for them, and then I found some other locals, and I was like, oh shoot, this guy's interviewing a bunch of locals. So it was a really interesting process to go through that and see, like, I found him and dug into this whole world. Like, other people could find us too. Like, the realization was there that I was like, oh, there are people out there that like watch this stuff. And I think for us, the consistency it's really hard to figure out, like, how do you allocate your time properly? Like, we know that this is a thing that we need to do. Is it more valuable for us to do it ourselves? Do we need to hire somebody? Are we getting to that point? And so, that's kind of moving forward from the business perspective. It's like, that's probably a hard lesson for us to like, okay, we got to hire somebody. It's going to be an investment, but we know that long term it's going to pay dividends. And so, like, we've already hired somebody to do the social media for when we open up like the coffee shop and the music venue. She does a great job. She manages some other locals. She's young and like really understands like the platforms very well. And she came in and did a couple of like posts for us pro bono, and they just like blew up. And I was like, all right, I'm done. Like, I'm not going to waste my time trying to pretend like I know how to use this platform. I'm going to pay somebody who really like just lives and breathes this stuff. And so for us, it's hard. Like, the venue's obviously not making any money right now. It's like a giant empty room, and so we have to pay for this out of pocket from gigs and the other revenue streams that we have. But I think again, it's going to be the investing. I think it's going to set us apart as a coffee shop, as a music venue. I don't think any of the other venues they'll post a poster for the week for who's playing, but they don't do a good job of like developing quality material.
You gotta get people excited to show
Yeah,
up.
you do. It's like if you don't.
The one thing I've said, just from I'm like, I don't want to post just a poster. Like, I want to post videos of like the artists freaking going crazy. Yeah. They were like, oh shit, this artist is playing this day. Like, I gotta go check it out. Yeah. So that's my whole intention.
100%.
And then like these artists too, I give them all the clips, like their performance, Amadeus and Mills. They have like their 20-minute set. Yeah. These guys have been posting it like nonstop. I've seen that, yeah. And then when we had the next show that I had them on, everyone knew the lyrics. Yeah. Almost every song, like at least maybe like their 3 top songs. People know the lyrics from all the times they post the videos. Like, sometimes it's like, oh, it's annoying, it's another time. Yeah. Or like you'll like it and you scroll, but like those little like things of them just singing the chorus over and over, how you said like 100% does it. That really works. Like, it translates to real life. Maybe you're not getting thousands of views, and maybe it's 300 views. Yeah. But when those people are gonna be at your show, and that's like, boom, it's motivation.
You've heard of like the 1,000 true fan theory before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's similar when you talk about like a band. It's like you don't need. I think one of the things that frustrates us as musicians is the short-sighted view that most people in the music industry have about like what does it mean to be successful in the music industry. And as a musician, if you're indie, if you're just trying to cut it yourself, like, I feel like there's 2 visions. It's, oh, I got to have a hit single, and then I'm just going to blow up, and somebody's going to sign me, or I'm going to be, like, self-propelled by, like, my crazy YouTube and streaming success, or I'm a failure, like, or I didn't get the... And, like, there's an in-between where you're like, hey, what if I was making, like, $100,000, I did a couple small tours, but I just killed it in, like, my local area, and I'm like, for most people... That's the American dream right there. That's like, hey, I'm doing 6 figures. I can provide for my family. I can pay for, the things that my kids need, and, for the lifestyle that I'm trying to live. I can travel. I can vacation. I can have health insurance, like the basics. And I get to do something that I love doing. And I feel like, no, you didn't get the $1 million record deal, but it's like, well, could I build something on that kind of, I think it's the vision for Patreon where like, you're familiar with like Jack Conte and Patreon. And I think that's kind of the vision that he geared, and we're huge, like Jack Conte and Patreon, Pomplamoose, his whole network of like.
Do you guys like the Patreon approach for like artists?
Yeah,
I think OnlyFans, but not like that. Not the original purpose of OnlyFans.
Avenida OnlyFans coming soon.
Yeah, that's, the patronage model we follow. One of the bands that like heavily influences us is a band called Scary Pockets. So Jack Conte's the CEO of Patreon. He started this band. They do funk covers.
Oh shit!
And the model that he set up. They're a machine. They do the same thing. Everybody flies into LA once a month. They film 4 songs in 8 hours. They have a whole production team behind them, and then they do 4 releases, 1 at the beginning of every week, and then they do 52 songs a year. And they get to pay. The band makes enough to where he draws a return. All the artists get paid really well, and then he's got like 4 of those bands. So he's got like an acoustic style cover, funky covers. They've got unique stuff, and then he runs Patreon, which is a $1 billion valuation. And so for us, it was just like, oh shoot, this model for like pump out a ton of content and gather people that really want to be there for you. I mean, they tour with Scary Pockets, and they'll fill up, a 3,000 person, venue, and it's like you've never heard of them, but they're highly successful. They all make a
The
living.
Patreon model really kind of helped shape what we're doing, because we're like, okay, we're just a band, and they're like, okay, well, we started realizing very quickly as a band, like, okay, I can play on Saturday night, I can play Friday night, maybe a Thursday, I can pick up maybe a Sunday church gig. That's it. I'm not getting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday gigs. It's not happening.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm booked on Saturday. That's it. I've got one gig. So it's like okay, how much does that gig pay? Pay $100? Pay $1,000? Doesn't matter. There is only so much money that this gig can make me, and then I'm splitting it between like 3 or 4 other guys, and and so then all the. So at the end of the day, you're like, I can't really make any money doing just that. So then it was like, okay, we need to diversify. What else can we do?
Yeah.
Okay, like, can we sell merch? Can we land this residency on whatever? Can we book other bands?
Can we play? We talked about streaming licensing, like
Can we
licensing
license music on one of these sites where like YouTube for free license music? Can we make that music and sell it to people? Like, there's all these different ways, if you're creative about it, on how that you can make a really great income doing music or doing whatever, but you just have to sometimes be a little bit more outside the box on what exactly that is, and maybe it's not exactly what you envisioned, but it can still be cool and fulfilling, and you can still do what you love. It doesn't have to be record deals.
Well, and I think that like something for us, like I know Sean mentioned that me and Vince, we do some writing, original stuff, and the fact that we kind of like will kind of write out parts in our heads and then bring them to the guys and have them kind of fill in, kind of helps the process, makes things faster. But for us, we've always felt like we've seen bands write music and then have to go to some labels. A lot of these labels are sketchy. Like a lot of oh my god.
There's a lot of labels on just.
There's tons of labels.
You get a label. You get a label.
Yeah, like that's the thing. If you really want to, like, you can get into a label. It's not super hard, but the problem is once you're in, they take everything. And in a lot of senses, like, even they take your music vision. I've seen people go into it and it's like, oh, I know the music they like to play, but the label's like, no, you need to play this. You need to, we don't want to see, you need to play this style. You need to play this genre.
Dude.
Or else you're not going to get big.
I know some horror stories of people who've gotten signed to labels and they record an album and the label's like, yeah, we're not going to release that. Shelf the album. Doesn't come out, but you're under contract and you can't do any other music or whatever.
Or even play live gigs.
Yeah, you can't and stuff because you're under the label's control.
Yeah, you're under the thumb. And, like, that's something that, like, Vince and I kind of, and really, all of us as a whole, we kind of like, that's not what we want to do. And, like, we don't want to leave our music and our livelihood in the hands of anyone else. So that was kind of, I think, for us, a big part of, the inspiration for building, I guess, this Avenida network is eventually getting to the point where we can do it ourselves. And that's what Scary Pockets does. Another one of our favorite groups, there's a band called Wolfpack. And they're all indie, also produced. They're the first band in history, music act, to sell out Madison Square Garden with no label, no help, no manager, nothing. It was just like all indie. And they sold out like the entire, garden. And like for us, we're like, that's what we want to be. Now, they're not, most people don't know who they are. They're not on the top 40 charts or anything, but it's like every person in the audience knew every lyric, and not just the lyrics, like the bass lines and the drumming part. Like,
that's crazy.
They knew every line, bro. And like they have the show. They have
live from
Madison Square Garden up there on YouTube. And they shot the whole thing with one camera, one take. So the guy's just like POV, like walking around and going up to people. and like it just it's so
Like you're in
different.
there, it feels
Yeah,
like you're there,
you feel
bro.
like you're on
and, like,
stage.
dude. Me and the guys watch it all the time. We'll go like and just watch
I gotta
the
check that.
garden.
Send me that
Yeah.
link for
It's
Yeah, I'll send
sick,
it to
dude.
you.
We'll send it. It's so dope, and it's like for us, we're like that's what we'd love to do, like where we can record this stuff, and if we want, we can, do that for other people. Say, hey, we want to give you. We don't want to take that away from people. If you want to record this music, yeah, we can help you get there. But for us, especially the stuff that we do, that we write, we want to be able to produce it ourselves, and really just hey, it's really. Especially with the original music, it's more of a passion project, and it's not about I don't gotta get famous or make a lot of money, but you never know, there you can find that fan base, and just like that group Wolfpack, they make enough to get by, they make enough to play shows, and they tour all around, the U.S., Europe, and it's like if you really work hard enough, like you can get there, and you can be. I think that's part of the reason why we talk about the space, even kind of going back to that, is we all, for the most part, have worked day jobs for a long time. And more recently, Vince and Sai were able to move over to just kind of functioning as, working for the band. So they don't have to go in and, clock in. I work for the school district right now. I work at Rancho Mirage High School. And then Sean works at Starbucks. Okay. And so, after we're done, just get off work and put on a different uniform and go and do the Avenida thing. And so eventually we'd love to get to that point where we can just work doing the music.
What are you guys gonna offer at Avenida? So you guys are offering stage for performances. Are you guys gonna offer live recording,
That's the goal.
videos?
We definitely want to. We
what's
haven't
like the
figured it
plan?
out yet, but that's a goal we're working toward, is live recording. We have an upstairs to our space that we're gonna be using partially as a recording studio space. So we can do some live recording there, some podcasting stuff there as well. We offer, part of it is an artist experience. So we have a green room. There's a place for the artist to be where they can prep for the show. They can get all ready and don't have to worry about just being out in the bar kind of thing. And
Yeah.
those simple things like having a load-in door that goes right to the stage. Yeah. I don't have to lug a bass drum 1,000 feet through 150 people and try to get around to have something come in through the back. You're on the stage.
Yeah.
Things like that I think we have a unique perspective to see those things because we've done it.
I think part of it goes back to, so I've listened to, you were doing the podcast, Angel and the Advocate, and he talked about why do you want, like, why are you the person that should be, that can help improve the scene or make the scene better, right? And I think we've asked ourselves that, and a big part of it is the reason that we feel like we can contribute to the development of the music scene out here is in part because we've done the gigging at crappy gigs, and we know what a really good experience is like from an artist perspective, and we know what a really bad experience is like. And so for us, if you're going to try and elevate a scene, because you take a look, I know you've talked about this before, but there's almost 500,000 people that live here year round. Once you come into season, you're bumping up to that almost 500,000 people. Like, what does a quality scene look like? And part of it is you have to develop the artists in order to understand, like, how am I supposed to act and what are things that I should expect as a professional? And so as an artist, like, you should know when we go into an event, if you don't provide us with a performance agreement ahead of time that stipulates, like, where's my writer? What are you going to be providing? What do I need to bring? When are we supposed to show up? When do we load out? How much are you paying me? When am I getting paid? Is it check? Is it Zelle? Like, all those things, it's very, very basic. But when we show up and they say, hey, here's your green room, everything on the rider is in there. We provide all your backline for you guys.
Got all the green M&Ms in there.
Yeah, exactly. And these are just little things that artists should start learning to expect. If you're going to go into, and perform somewhere, you be comfortable negotiating money ahead of time. Be comfortable talking about, hey, can I bring my own photographers and can I share those pictures? And what happens if your video of me blows up online? Who gets paid out of that? Like, do I retain my rights?
There was a situation back in the day. This was years ago, and I won't say any names. But there was a place where I went to play, and I was just always in the habit. I did a lot of cover gigs, so I was always in the habit of like, oh, how much does this gig pay? And this person's like, oh, it's gonna pay this much. And I was like, awesome, that sounds great. And so I go in, I play the gig, I get paid. Play the gig again, I get paid. get paid every time I play this gig. So one day we're talking to some other artists, and so I think it was Sai. Was like, man, he was like just frustrated about something. He's like, I can't believe this gig only pays this much or whatever. And the other guys all turn around. They're like, you're getting paid? And so
Dude, I felt so bad. I was like, oh my god.
and so it really, in this situation, it was a thing of the only artists who were getting paid were the artists who asked for money. If you didn't, hey, well, how much does this pay? You didn't make any money on that.
We've
gig.
stopped working with those people when we realized that was the rig. We assumed everybody was getting
But
paid.
that was
and
people don't understand like how important it is to just ask
and negotiate.
And
you know?
I mean,
Yeah,
it could be
negotiate for yourself.
depending on what my goal is for the gig. That can be okay if I'm not making any money on that gig, but it's because I'm doing it for this reason. It's not because I didn't ask and it was ambiguous on whether I was getting paid or not.
Exactly.
I have it very clear in my mind. I'm getting paid this much for this gig. Okay, cool. I understand what that is.
Yeah, we have our limits. We don't play any corporate events, private events, parties, or weddings for less than a certain amount, and it's really high at this point. Like we've gotten to the point where we're like, if you're not going to pay me what I'm worth, I'm not going to walk to the door. And then there are people that are like, oh, please come and do my thing. We like them, and we're like, we want to go have fun, play whatever we want. We will play for significantly less, but it's not because we've devalued our what we're playing. It's because we're friends with you. We want to jam there, and your pizza's pretty good, or whatever it is. And it's like
It's just about knowing your value and being comfortable with that.
And-
Like
and
I
say
am
no.
worth
Yeah.
this much.
yeah, you got to say no. You got to say no sometimes to be like, sorry, I don't play for less than that. You won't see the money that you make increase until you start saying, I'm willing to say no because you're not giving me what I told you I was worth.
And as an artist, how do you know what you're worth?
Well, when you ask for it and somebody gives it to you.
That's a great question. So a very specific story. This was crazy, man. So we played a backyard party for a gentleman, super nice dude. And, we had negotiated the amount. And he was like, okay, cool. While we're there, one of the caterers was like, you guys are good. I also am having a party in my backyard.
Yeah.
I want you guys to play. So we're like, all right, cool. So he's like, how much, do you charge? And we told him, well, this much. And we thought it was a little bit high, but we're like, hey, we see how much work it is now because these were some of our first gigs. We're like, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of prep time. The hours we practice during the week, it all adds up.
Equipment, like
Yeah, everything,
$10,000
dude.
plus on
Yeah, exactly.
Something
Speakers,
falls over,
yeah.
breaks. So we told him, hey, this much. And he was like, sounds good. And then he ended up giving us a tip because he just loved the music. Super sweet guy. And that's when we realized oh, shoot, you can tell people this is what we want. And they might say, yeah, So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's a portion of it. And maybe this is where the question is coming from. You can ask around.
Yeah.
Hey,
that's a huge
what does this place usually pay? Or what do you guys usually ask for? You kind of gauge it because you don't want to overshoot like crazy to where people are like, dude, you're ridiculous. Nobody's going to pay that much. But
Yeah.
you also don't want to be on that low end where, and this has happened too, you're willing to take so little that you're kind of stealing all the gigs from everybody, because you're the cheapest one out there.
You're devaluing
That's
the
not cool
market,
either,
yeah.
because then everybody else is like, yo, we're worth more than that, but you're making it so that everybody's willing to pay, peanuts, when really they should value the music a little bit more. So I think that's what I would add is, as a music community, everybody kind of needs to be on board with that. Hey, make sure your product is top tier, but let's work together to make sure everybody gets paid top tier. Don't be selfish. Look out for each other. It has to be that community. That's the right word.
It's a little inside baseball, but
Yeah.
I was always told so me and Saya, we nerd out on marketing and business stuff. So I was always told this by I forget who it was, but it was a business coach, and they said the person who says a number first is the loser.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm negotiating a price, what's your budget for this event? These exploratory questions, if I can get them to give me a budget, I know, oh shoot, I was thinking about asking this much. Oh, their budget is 100 times that. Yeah. Maybe I could ask for a couple of extra $100. I don't. So it's a fluid model. It's not it's not ever one-to-one.
Yeah.
This always pays this, but it's the more information I have, the better informed I can make a better decision. And sometimes it's like, okay, I'm starting out, I'm playing this bar, I'm making $300. That's great. And then until it's not great. So there's a certain point where like, I'm sick of this. I don't want to play this gig anymore. It's now $450 or I'm walking. And they're like, oh yeah, no problem. And I'm like, shoot, this is a $450 gig. It's not a $300 gig. And it's a lot of kind of exploring that. And you get it with practice, talking to other bands. We always asking like, hey, we make how much do you make on this? This is how much we make on this. Like,
we make spreadsheets for all of this stuff. We have spreadsheets left and right. So
it's like when you're working at a job and you're like, okay, well, everyone's like, oh, I don't want to tell you how much I make per hour. I don't want to tell you how much. But the only person who wins when you do that is the corporation. Yeah. Like if you guys all are, oh shoot, I'm making $3 less than you for doing the same job. I'm going to go ask for a raise. And it's like we all win if we are all kind of transparent and talking to each other.
Yeah. No, and it's another like little piece of inside baseball like Sean was talking about was so we've leveraged opportunities that we've had to explore those things. So like for instance, we became the agents for Acoustic Spot and I have access to all the back end. So I know exactly what everybody makes coming from LA and coming from San Diego.
Oh, nice.
And I was just like, let me see how much these people are making. And I looked at it and I was like, oh my God. So the owner actually, he's friends with me and he came to me. He's like, hey, you're the agent. He's like, I know that your band also plays and I like you. And we had put out a bid on a big corporate gig and I pitched us against 2 other guys. And we were like thousands of dollars less. And for us, it was still a big gig. And he came up to me and he's like, hey man, just so you know, like you're significantly cheaper. He's like, you're going to do one of 2 things. You're either going to make your product look bad or you're going to make the rest of my products look overpriced. And he was like, I need you to raise your prices so that you can look comparable to the other people that they're used to paying these prices. And so it's not about shafting anybody. It's not about like trying to cheat anybody, but we started learning from other people in the industry, hey, this is what the top tier is getting. This is about where you are. And you have to know, we're not top tier. We're really good mid-tier, I think. And we know that. We know exactly what we can get. So when we go in and when we price ourselves now, we know exactly what for like a wedding. We know exactly what that person's probably spending on a wedding. We know the median, cost of a wedding in the Inland Empire. We know what other bands, 4 pieces playing our type of music are getting paid. And so we know exactly, and like 9 times out of 10, it's a yes on the first shot.
It also, I mean, you have to know your audience. Like you have to know, okay, I'm playing this dive bar. Okay, I'm playing this fancy restaurant. Oh, I'm playing in a billionaire's living room. Like there's different clients. You're like, I can probably charge more. This client this client has more to offer. And it's not that the dive bar, like it's not like I'm less valuable because I'm playing there, but it's, I know that this bar cannot accommodate this amount of money. Like I know that they're selling dollar beers. There's been 3 people here all night. Yeah. I know they made $3 tonight. Yeah. Like they can't pay me what I'm worth. Then it just becomes, was this gig worth it to me? And it can have, there's intangible value to things. So it's not necessarily, they can't pay me what I'm worth. It's not worth it. There might be another reason that I'm playing that gig, but I have to understand that.
We found kind of a bit of a niche, even like with Avenida, the group, and like we know in terms of getting like those, super high dot, we'd have to like, all right, let's go out and buy the shiny suits, and everyone's got to dress up with the bow tie and got to sing, Frank Sinatra standards or whatever,
Call some backup female singers that look better than we do.
So that's what it takes to get you guys from. Mid-tier,
like mid-tier to high,
suits.
They want to see a bigger band as well.
Bigger production.
That high.
That's where it really becomes into production value.
And like we could get there if we know the people, we know the players, we know the horn guys, the singers, but it's like for us, it's more about like the trade-up. We still also like to, have fun and get a little bit rowdy when we play, do stuff like that. And
we like to kind of do some fun, weird covers of like. Sometimes we play Margaritaville. Sometimes we play James Bay, and nobody's ever heard this song. People are like, "Is that an original?" It's like, no, you've just never heard of this artist. And we like to play a lot of those artists. And sometimes you make that sacrifice when you're moving to that higher end of like, I play this same set list that everybody else plays because it works. And there's, at the end of the day, there is like a set list. You're like, these songs work. The reason everybody plays these songs is because they work.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do those songs. But that can be a compromise from, why I'm not doing that gig, I'm doing this gig instead. It's a choice. And
the clientele as well. You know, you kind of like, we've kind of crafted a bit of an image of like we play. We're very, we're proficient musicians and we play, a lot of hits and stuff. But we also like to have kind of like an indie feel. We do like the denim and the boots and that kind of a cool, almost like hipster thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the clients, like they pay well. It's in a sense, we don't even necessarily want the super high dollar because of like the super high dollar stuff. You're gonna get treated a certain way,
Stuffy,
very highbrow. So for us, we really like the people that we get to play for. They're usually very laid back people, very chill.
What do you guys see like with Avenida Music, the venue opening up? Like, are you gonna take less gigs so you guys can focus on the production of more artists? Are you guys only gonna perform exclusively at your club? Like, what's
Definitely, it's going to be a change. We've already kind of started implementing the change. So with booking for acoustic spot and over the years of quarantine and things just drastically changing, and it's starting to get back to this point, but there was a long time where, like, we're not getting gigs as a 4-man band. Like, that's just not happening. Nobody can afford that right now. Nobody wants especially like out in Palm Springs. It's all very small format. They don't want. There's not enough space. It's really loud. They don't want it to be too loud. And
Acoustic.
So, we started kind of changing our model. So sometimes we're sending Sam over to play acoustically by himself at a place. Sometimes Sam and Vince go together. Sometimes me and Saya both learned how to DJ. And so we'll be out DJing. DJing drums, DJing keyboards, DJ guitar, and we'll
how does that work?
Percussion. Yeah, it's like live.
So you just play it to the beat, or
People bring timbales, they bring congas, and they'll
I've done
kind
full
of,
drum set to it too.
Yeah,
that sounds super dope. I never even thought.
yeah,
And it's
people pay a huge premium for that.
Yeah, they do.
So
That's crazy.
they add
But,
percussion or sax.
So we'll get to these days where we're like, oh, cool. All of us are gigging on a Friday night, but we're not together at all. We're all playing at different places. And so I think it's going to be a lot of that, is a lot of, okay, we need 2 guys to go run the shop tonight. The other 2 guys, can you handle this gig? We have a bunch of friends that we can call, like, oh, hey, we've got our friend Calvin to come and play like crazy lead guitar. And so, okay, he's going to be on lead, and we're going to send him with Vince over to this gig. And so we can kind of divide up into smaller units. There's definitely going to be a component of us playing at our own place because we have our own place. Why
Wouldn't we play there? Yeah.
But
and also we're headlining every night.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Well, we have
the house band.
We have that, like fan base as well. The people that are loyal to the Avenida brand, because of us, because they've seen us come
What
up
days
with
are you guys gonna be open? Or I mean, I know maybe you still don't know all the details, but
We're pretty straightforward on
and like times.
Monday through Saturday. We want to take Sundays off just because all of us lead worship at our churches respectively. So we're usually gigging late Saturday and then we're up at like 7:30 in the morning. Yeah.
So we'll probably be closed Sunday. It was also a choice that we possibly could be doing like private event stuff in the space on a Sunday, so we could have a weekend day available for that.
There's yoga studios that have reached out to us.
Other churches, honestly, who want to rent it.
Like Monday, Tuesday, like why those days, or what do you plan doing those days? Or because it's also a coffee shop.
So we were originally it's a live music venue. That's what it is. Now we discovered in our last place that no matter what we were doing, like we were not making any money. We were paying money to have this place, and we were not making any money. And so we were like, okay, we're gonna do beer and wine, and then there was a whole bunch of stuff. And so now we're just doing beer. Beer's back on the table. So beer, and that's gonna help fund the venue. Now we took that to the city, and the city was like, well, yeah, but we also want people there during the day as well. Yeah. So what can we do? So we started looking at, okay, let's throw a coffee shop in there. We'll just rent it out to a coffee shop, and they can do their thing there.
Yeah, find a pre-existing shop that are,
We went around, we interviewed probably 15 different coffee shops, and we were just not finding a good fit for us. And then we kind of had the idea, we were talking to a couple different people who advise us, and David Bermudez is a guy. He does La Michoacana and a couple Wetzel Pretzels.
All the paleteros. He owns all of them.
Army Dutch Bros, yeah. So he's been greatly helpful in giving us kind of feedback and ideas. And we were talking about it one day with him, and he's like, Sean works at Starbucks. He's like, just do coffee yourselves. He's like, the margins are really good on coffee. If you guys have somebody to do coffee, you guys should be doing coffee. And we're like,
Yeah.
So then we kind of started envisioning what that would be like. And then that kind of turned into, okay, we're going to do a coffee shop. And so that way we can kind of have foot traffic throughout the whole day. And then we're not sure yet exactly if we'll be open the whole day or if we'll close early and then we'll transition later into the night into a full on like bar and then live music and all that stuff. But, and I'm sure that's going to morph and change as we kind of see trends and stuff. But so it's going to be coffee shop. It's going to be beer. It's going to be live music. Eventually, maybe we'll do harder spirits and wine, but that's not at open. That's going to be down the line.
Yeah. Well,
And we do kind of want to lean, towards, I think I would say the beer aspect, the beer and wine aspect.
The brewery feel.
Yeah, that feel, there's a lot of great breweries around here that have just a really cool, sleek feel to them. And sometimes, like with the bars and the hard liquor, you get, hard drinking and it gets a little bit crazy. So we like the kind of feel of, like that taproom brewery kind of feel, where it's very kind of grassroots. And
Yeah, I have a couple friends and relatives who have worked like food and bev, specifically bartenders, bar managers. And when I tell them we're probably leaning away from the liquor license, they're like, that's a really good idea. Because they said not only is it really expensive, the insurance and the license itself, but they said be specific about the kind of crowd you want to come out if you guys are going to focus on the live music, because you don't want just a bunch of jokers there who are trying to get hammered and then, something goes down and you get a bad reputation because people are just there,
causing problems.
causing problems. So that was one thing. And then I think another issue was, like Sean was saying, because the city wanted foot traffic during the day and people coming in and out of our space during the day, we started to think like, okay, well, how can we make this like a community hub, where people just, hey, I'm going to go down there for this or for that. So something I talked with Josiah about was, hey, let's, support not just music, but some of the other arts. So we've talked about having artwork from the different art programs at the schools displayed at our space. So like talk to the art teachers and be like, hey, you guys have any art that you'd be willing, student art, to have them bring down and we'll display it maybe for like a week and have a day like during the week where, hey, the artist comes down, their family gets to check it out and, have a good time. So yeah, just having stuff that's like a reason to be down there.
community based.
Because that's what the city's asking for. And so we thought, well, if we're going to have to be open during the day, we'll have the coffee there. We'll have other stuff for people to do. We'll probably have like maybe a solo artist playing acoustic or somebody on a piano during those daytime hours. So there'll still be music, live music. It just won't be like a full, group.
Yeah.
So just we're tossing a lot of ideas around right now. We're not even 100% locked
No,
in. on some of that
we've
stuff.
got like weird. I think part of it though is as artists. So we talked about there's a couple local guys that do comedy out here. I don't know if you know Dakota.
Yeah.
So I reached out to Dakota and he and I have been talking and the guys and I were like, okay, everybody else, you're gonna do comedy. You've got Agua Caliente doing it. You got kind of like the Hood and some of the other smaller venues. What could we do that would be unique, or what can we add to this? And so we talked about like, look, if we're gonna do like a comedy night, here's your house band. And now we do it more like a format that's similar to like a nighttime show, where between the artists, you've got a live band playing. They get to film their sets. So now they have, promo materials that they get to use. And then to be played in and played out with like a live band, it just feels bigger to give them the expectation of like similar to what you're saying. So we'll see how it works with regard to like, do people actually show up for that? Is that going to be good on a Monday? But for us, it really is. It's going to revolve around staying focused on the community. If you look at downtown Indio, it's well positioned, but the city's really had to change their vision. They've given license to younger locals who are kind of untested now. The game plan before was we're going to buy up all the land, and then we're going to have some developers going to come in, buy all the buildings off of us, tear them down, and just build some beautiful high-rise luxury apartments, and that's going to transform the downtown. And I think with new leadership in the city, they've pivoted to more of a model that's like, you know what, we have a blighted city center that hasn't really worked for 20 plus years. What we're going to do is we're going to give opportunities to young people who don't have a track record, but they've got a vision for what this could be. And so if you look down, everybody on this block, for many of the people on the block, are 35 and younger. A lot of them are Hispanic. A lot of them are first or early, entrepreneurs. So you've got Gabinos, you got Devin down from the beer company. You've got, the Heat Wave. It's just all young students. Adam Gilbert just bought the building across the way. So like the people moving into the city center are young, kind of hungry locals. They understand the local scene. They understand the local city. And the city told us straight up, they're like, we know that you guys know local musicians because when you were doing your little stuff over in your other location, they were like, hey, don't bring too many people in here because like it was taking off. And
what's the max capacity right now? That's the new building going to be looking at?
So just to get the doors open, the fastest way to do it after talking with our architect is you shoot for 49 or under just to get the doors open. Then the next phase, which is going to happen very quickly after that, is you have to do things like you add fire doors. You have to add like a sprinkler system. You have to add all these little components. So we are going to do all those things, but the goal is just get the doors open, get through the first part of the season, then get through the summer and do this remodel. And then when we open in the next season, the building is 6,000 square feet. We could probably put about 150 to 200 people in their standing room once all of the permits and the building department comes through and gives us that clearance. But again, the money and the driver, the question up front was what's going to drive the money? The money driver on the front end is going to be the coffee shop, and you're never going to have more than like 25 people walking through your door to start. So we're like, we need to get through, start making money, and then we can talk about throwing the big cool shows that we want to do. But again, it's practical. We had to do that just because that's where we're at. That's it's taken longer than we expected. It's been more
Yeah, we were
expensive.
supposed to already be open.
Yeah, and it's cost us. Yeah, it's self-funded too. It's all through money that we've had to save.
Playing gigs. I mean, we still do the same thing we did when we started off, which is every gig that we play, like a % of it, we don't see it. So somebody books us, hey, we're gonna give you guys, $1,200 instead of hey, we each get 300. It's like, nah, we each get maybe 150, and then the business get
and that scales all the way up to like small events, like he was saying, corporate events, the stuff that we're doing that's huge. That's like we're like, oh man, it would have been good to get that chunk,
nice chunk of money.
Yeah.
Could have made $1,000.
Yeah.
You could even rent it out for private parties, like you said.
That's going to be
private
huge.
Parties.
Yeah,
Some Coachella parties.
That's definitely one of.
Oh, we heard once we get into season for this stuff, we'll talk about like temporary use permits and whatnot. But I think that if you look at where we're based, kind of geographically, and also just kind of culturally, so like the old Polo Estate, they shut down at 10 o'clock, I think, and they have a noise ordinance. So we've already had people say, hey, I'm having my wedding at these venues in Indio. You got to shut them down early. Can we do an after party at your place? And we've had other people that are like, hey, are you guys going to be open during Coachella? We want to do a pre-party. We want to do a post-party. We want to do like a VIP, like pregame.
Do the pre-post party.
Yeah. So our goal is to develop, like, the dream would be Coachella's coming through town, and we're booked out, whether it's influencers that want to come and throw like a bash for their friends, or indie artists that are going to come in and they want to throw a cool show for the weekend of Coachella, locals that want to do like a super cool like midweek thing. That'll probably take precedent during those special times, but it'll be a little bit of a mix. It'll be some of the coffee stuff, some of the weekly live events, and then partnering with corporations and artists and stuff to rent the place out. So
that's dope. Yeah, I think Coachella that's the thing that's missing about the Valley, like a place for artists to perform. So like 3-4 years ago, there was Miguel. He performed at Neil's Lounge after Coachella, at 2 a.m. Like, that randomly he sang on the fucking like people were just right there getting drunk and he pulled up.
Paul McCartney up in
Pioneer Town,
Pioneer Town.
Like artists want to do that. Like you hear stories of like shit, the artists just pulling up to small
100%
venues, but there's no venues here.
Yeah,
especially close to the festival. Everything's in Palm Springs. They're gonna drive 40 minutes over there.
Yeah.
So like it's so huge, and we gotta take advantage of 250,000 people or more that come to the Valley. Like.
It fills up. It's so crazy.
Well, when we talk about developing the music scene too, that's one of the big things. The venue ladder. I have a place that I can play. Like as an artist, you should be able to see, okay, I just started. There's a coffee shop with 10 seats that I can play. And then after that, there's another place with 50 seats that I can play. And then when I start packing that out, there's another place with 150 seats. And then there's a place with 1,000 seats. And then there's a place with 10,000 seats. That's a proper venue ladder for an artist. Right now, I've got the Hood, I've got a coffee shop, I got my friend's backyard, I've got the casino, I've got the McCallum, I've got Acrisure Arena. There's not very much in between. There's a couple, but they're all corporate, and you can't. So you're right. The venue ladder needs to be developed. It's going to take vision from individuals saying like, oh, I think I could do a badass like 150 person room, and then another guy's going to be like, oh, like the theater over in Palm Springs. Oh, we can do a cool theater with 300 people. Let's renovate an old theater or start pushing it. But that's why people want to go to LA. It's a mid tier. It's like I'm not playing at a smaller event. This is a great platform, what you're building here to like get people started, but it's like you said, in order to graduate them to something else, to that next level, to that festival, to that, that venue that's going to ask them like, well, where's your following? What, can you put butts in seats? And we don't have that level that's between the bottom tier and the entry level and like top tier arenas. So that's kind of where our niche fits in. We're like, hey, we're going to build the next step, and then somebody else will come along, and maybe it's going to be us, in 5 years, or we're building the next thing.
And I think the motivation of seeing you guys, because I feel like you'll be successful just because you've already done, you already had success doing it. Yeah. I feel like you guys have done all the homework and studying and like the investment, and like you guys are coming from a good place, so I could see success definitely happening at your place. That's gonna encourage other venues and other people to start taking the music scene serious. Like, oh, they're getting people there every weekend. So this past weekend, have you heard Terraza VIP over there on Jackson over the bridge?
I know of it. Yeah.
Like we had an interview with the owner for
cool.
the other podcast in Spanish last Friday.
It used to be Ponchos, or
Huh?
it used to be Ponchos, or it's
it's
over.
Yeah, they've had like a bunch of names. But yeah, Ponchos. So the guy, he says he's open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then he packs out the place. It's 180 people max capacity, and he'll book like a banda, maybe 2 or 3 artists, like a banda, Sierreño, and like sometimes norteño nights on Saturdays or whatever. And he packs it out, 180 people, and there's people that just he doesn't sell any food. It's only alcohol, only beer. Yeah, no. I think he sells hard liquor too, but he has like a hot dog guy outside. Yeah. But everyone just goes in there to listen to live music.
Well, that'll be we'll bring in the food trucks.
I didn't know like that scene was like getting packed like that every weekend. He's like, yeah, it's packed every weekend, and like we wish we could do bigger things because sometimes there's lines at the door because it's only 180 people. Like, I'm like, damn, like I didn't even know that. Like that's crazy. Yeah.
So our goal is, we'll eventually expand it and build. I think there's, even if you split the valley in half, there's 90,000 people roughly, or well, let's say it's like 80 some odd thousand people in Indio, another 40 in Coachella. You go out to like Thermal in the East Valley, another maybe 25 or 30. It's like, cool. I just rounded up 150,000 people.
That's so untapped, bro. Because I swear here at this event, I mean, I don't know. I want to say like 20-30% of the people are coming from Thermal, Mecca, Salton Sea, bro.
I went to school. We all went to school.
Like, all this shit, like, I was like, what the fuck? Like, you forget, like, there's just, like, so much community, and everybody wants to do stuff. There's nothing
to do out there.
Yeah, exactly. And then everybody that's trying to start businesses, the first thing is like, oh, we need to cater to Palm Springs. Or like,
I mean, that,
I'm like, bro, we're surrounded by some,
why is Palm Springs popping? It's because Palm Springs has stuff to do. That's people go to Palm Springs.
Exactly. So you go to downtown Indio, it's dead.
So if there's something in Indio, people, we threw random shows there and people showed up. So we had to start hiring security because we had too many people.
We out of pocket. We were hiring security. We're like, throw on this uniform. Like, we need you to like make sure that nobody's drinking or smoking in the building. Like, because we didn't have any licenses for any of that. But 100%. I went to school out at Desert Mirage.
Oh, perfect.
So I was like, we know how many people are out there. We used to be sitting around. We're like, God, we have nothing to do. So you take from Big Rock Pub is really the only place on this side of the valley for anybody to play that. So from Jefferson all the way out to the Salton Sea, you really just have the casinos, and then you've got like Coachella Bar,
Sinaloa type stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The smaller stuff that's like 50 cap and under. There's plenty of like I said, 150,000 people minimum, and what you need to put 100 people into the building. It's just like you need one out of every 150 people to show up. It's just it's not that.
No,
difficult.
And then what's gonna happen is people already know the area for music. That's another one of my theories. Is like there's 250,000 people coming for a reason. Like they know there's music, the music scene here. But it's like, what about
City of festivals?
What about the other 11 months of the year? You know, what else is going on? So those same people, and now like actually, I have a couple friends that are DJs, and I just kept seeing their story, and like all the Palm Springs nightclubs were packed, like all
100%.
summer in the middle of
That's what we
August,
do.
July.
That's it. Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell? Like, I don't remember being in like that. So I'm like, people are coming here year round now.
I mean, it's really the pandemic kind of spread it out. People were working remote now. People are like, I don't want to be in LA anymore. It was a mess, and I want out. And so people are kind of discovering the Valley, and it's growing exponentially
on the corporate side of stuff too. So we do the corporate booking, and if you're booking Palm Springs, but you want a deal, well, these hotels are like, okay, come in July, and you're like, oh, I got to take 200 people. I'm going to save $50,000. Yeah, we'll go book it out in July. Everybody stay inside, do the pools, and we'll go out to the clubs at night. And everybody gets to say, oh, I went to Palm Springs. They didn't know that it was 120 degrees outside, but the hotel actively
tried to make a good experience.
They try to bring it, and so they're like, well, hey, we got to book the band. So it's evolving. People are becoming smarter about the way that they market, and so we're becoming more evergreen, more year round.
We're back.
Yeah, there we go. Well, you can put the sponsorship spot in there. You know what I mean? Like, word from
Brought to you by Audible.
No, it's Blue Chew, bro, or
NordVPN.
Raycon.
Was it
Raid Shadow Legends.
Yeah, Raid Shadow Legends. Bro.
Dash
That's the only thing I
VPN.
struggle with is like the monetization part of it.
Oh yeah.
I've been holding on to it for a while to monetize just so I could hire people to help me edit, bro. Because it's crazy.
That's it.
I mean, maybe you look at the Patreon model. I know a lot of guys who do that. They're like, hey, if we reach this goal, I can hire an editor.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what they kind of do. That your Patreon pledge is paying for a staff member.
Yeah. I have plans for a Patreon. So I have hours and hours of behind the scenes content from everything.
Nice.
From podcasts to the shows to just every music video behind the scenes. Just
Every
everything.
podcast
I've saved all
is
the
like
raw footage of everything.
it's all 10 hours long. We cut it down to 5 minutes. You get the other 9 hours.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe doing that, like you get exclusive to all the behind the scenes stuff, and then maybe like exclusive content as well, and
Maybe they get to vote on different topics
or who's
and
coming
guests
next,
and
or-
You can get a corporate sponsor from the new venue that's coming up, Little Street Music Hall. You know.
Even like I like the thing you were about to say, like first look, like the Patreon people get it first. You know, like they get it a day early or something. There's a lot of cool stuff. Like
I seen some people do some good Patreons, and that's you're not relying on like some of the locals will, but sometimes people from the internet start reaching out.
you save like the last sip of every water bottle from guests and you sell that on Patreon.
I wanted to do a thing where like people forget like an item.
Oh.
And, like, someone forgot.
I lost and found.
Yeah, there's people that forget little like things, and we kept it. I was like, how can I want to display it?
It'd be like a fun little
I
segment.
thought you were gonna say you were gonna sell those things to
No.
like fund the podcast.
Patreon, you'll get exclusive shit.
Whatever gets left on the podcast, it's a grab bag. You don't know what it is.
You have
This is
to-
the mystery tier.
You come on a podcast, you have to leave an item that's gonna be auctioned off on the Patreon.
So you take one, leave one. Kind
Yes,
of thing.
that would be sick.
That's
Honestly, so what you're doing is valuable. I think that what people need to realize that, like with the shows that you do out here, that content, that level, I think you'll get to the place where people are going to realize, like, I'll let you know, we've paid up to, or we haven't, but we've been able to get people to contract us. It costs $2,000 to record 1 hour of live. And that's with a friend. They gave us a friend discount. And so that's audio and video. And we pawned that off onto the company. It was like, well, if you want a live recording, you're going to have to pay for it. But that was our friend doing it. And I was like, if you tried to get a company to do this for you, like there's a ton of value because that one session fueled like almost 5 months worth of posting for us. Shorts. I mean, we added probably 100 subscribers to YouTube. And it's just what you're doing is bringing value to people. And then you're going to have to start bringing in that monetization where you're like, look, what I'm doing, you need to pay for this. If you want to be serious about your craft, invest in yourself. I gave you the one free, but like this is figuring out a model that works for both parties moving forward. I think will be the challenge.
Yeah, that's the thing that we're doing next. Also for the podcast, we haven't charged any of the groups, and we're making them in like 3 videos, and an interview, and we're making clips for them.
Exactly.
And we're doing everything, just bringing so much value because it's
a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot, but I know if I could do it the best that I can do it, I want to do it the best I can do it. Because like there was a couple times where like, oh, we shouldn't have like, we don't have that much great lighting or whatever. Like, let's just do a recording. But I was like, if we're gonna do it, let's try to do it the best that we can. And of course, sometimes there's been a few shoots where we don't have all the lighting because we're kind of like helping each other with lighting. And then there's sometimes we had one artist that the guy that does the stages for me. I paid him $200 to come set up lighting for the one shoot.
Cool.
So like that costs money, but like we're working with the other guys from the podcast and like.
You know what I mean? Sometimes you can work off like a donation model. Like, hey man, like there's certain creators that, cool, like I give $1 to them every month because they make great content that I watch all the time. Like I watch them more than anybody. I should absolutely be paying for this and I want to support. And so I think if you were to give listeners kind of a platform, you'd be surprised at how many people are like, no, this is great content and I want to support it so that I can have more great content.
There's one person, that microphone stand. So I only had these 2 microphone stands, and then I had 2 people holding the mics. And then I think someone commented like, "Oh, how come you guys are holding the mics?" And I was like,
bums.
"Oh," so I was like, "I'm broke. I can't afford a fucking mic stand." And then someone messaged me, and they're like, "Hey, I saw your comment. Like, how much does a mic stand cost? I'm down to like Zell you if you need it and shit." And then he sold me like $50, and we bought
Ask and you'll
You
receive.
do like the OnlyFans thing with like an Amazon wish list. And you just like buy and send it to you. Like,
So like there's people you never know. I was like, damn, that's crazy. Like
people are generous. They want to help out.
It feels, I don't know.
100%. It feels weird.
It feels weird. Like I don't.
But you can like
people,
maybe like cool. I throw your name in the credits, things like that. People love that kind of stuff, and it's cool.
Patrons at the end of the episodes, it shows all that.
And it can kind of give people like a sense of purpose and like I'm part of this. I'm part of a bigger thing. I was able to help and make this product better because of my support.
Well, and you go ahead.
It also like it's a testament to, I think that even not all the time is the content as important as the content creator. Like, I know you were talking about the different kinds of like facets of your channel, like reviewing, like whether it's books or movies or whatever, different things, and then like the podcast. There's this guy that I occasionally will watch on YouTube. His name is Mr. Gigi, and the dude, I think on his channel, like when you go to his channel, there's like a slogan that basically says, I don't have anything specific. I just like to talk. And, sometimes people like to listen. So like he'll go over so many different topics. He's like, oh, this week I'm doing reviews of, the top 10 worst horror movies, that I've seen or something.
Next week, nuclear fission.
Like, and he'll do different things, but like people watch because they like him. And I feel like, like creators, that's how it is. I think like for that longevity that you'll have, like people just watch because of you. They want to hear you talk. Yeah. And it doesn't really matter whether you're interviewing or talking about stuff you 100%. Like, they'll like you. And that's why they'll invest in helping you. I'll help you buy this or I'll help you get this because they like you as a person, as a YouTuber. And they love just seeing you talk about whatever it is you're passionate about. But
well, I mean, to be practical too, and like also to kind of like round this out and start wrapping, I guess, because we got it. But what are like, now that you know a little bit more about us, a little bit more of our vision, like what's one way that we could help you get to that next step? Like what's a practical thing? And then, like if you could envision it, what would it be that you're like, hey, I could see us partnering on this, or I would need help. Could you guys contribute to this?
So, the stuff that I need help with, and then that I see that I need help with. Yeah. One, I definitely need help with booking guests for podcasts, booking guests for shows.
Oh no, Saya's got the notebook.
I keep trying. Yeah.
Definitely monetization. Okay. So I guess that would. Oh, and then of course, I want to make this because everything's been kind of like super low key. Fucking no permits, just fucking out. So I want to make it legit, so that way. Because every show, I have the stress in the back of my head. Fuck, the cops are gonna show up. Every time, and that's another reason we can't charge at the door. Because if I start charging, then it becomes like a it's like a private event.
Yeah, absolutely.
So right now, that's one of the reasons why I can't monetize the shows, and then I can't. Right now, I'm not charging. I'm not paying the artists. Because I'm making them the videos. So
that's
I'm sacrificing. It's
absolutely.
I provide the space.
It's like bartering, you're trading.
Yeah, we're bartering like the old times and shit. But I want to pay the artists too. That's another thing because one, I want to provide the space, do the videos, and pay them. So that way it motivates them. They can invest back into music,
exactly.
stuff like that. So that's kind of like the biggest struggle because I do have a few partners for the podcast, but as far as the actual production, but the videos I do get help. So like recording, like equipment, all the shit. I have like my other friends from Air Studios and Brian B Filming.
Okay.
Adam and.
But you're looking to monetize specifically for like an editor. You said that's
for
like
editing
a big thing.
and to be honest, to just post, bro. I have the content already, bro. I have like every podcast. I've done some where like I'll make 20 clips. I paid this one guy. He makes me 15 clips. So I pay him. He'll make me 15 clips on the podcast.
Okay.
And that's been helping. But even just posting, bro, that it takes so much time when you have like 3 pages, bro. It's like, oh my god. Like I have the videos on my shit, but then I'm editing the next week's podcast and scheduling this other podcast and doing another thing, and I can't even really post when I have like the videos made. Like,
got somebody for you.
So that's
I know how much I know how much she charges, and I know I'm gonna start. I'll put you two together. I know the price point, so now we can like develop a basis for like, okay, we know in order to achieve this goal, we got to have X amount of money invested. We know how much this person charges every month. Let's go then to the the people and say like, hey, can we get X amount of dollars? For, it's going to cost $2 from each one of you or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, we're serious about like, I think this is probably not only having the vision for it, but then like strategizing on like what are the things that you need help with. And now we can go. We have a meeting every week. We have our monthly meetings, and we've got like kind of quarterly vision meetings. So like this is something we're going to sit down. I think you're right on the money. Like the permits and getting legal is going to be crucial for you to really start monetizing and for this to take off.
We're gonna send you our book, Avenida and the Art of Selling Out.
Yeah. Just whoever gives you money, you just do whatever they say. No, but this is good. I think it's that's something we'll be thinking on and like really try to figure out how to strategize. And
we love this kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, like from our end, honestly, it's gonna be you have a really great connection with this side of the valley, with entrepreneurs as a whole, with the music community. I think when you talk about what are the things that like with this business is not making a ton of money right now, but I think what you are developing is you're developing rapport with a large group of people. Like you
brand.
It's a brand, and I think part of that is going to be its influence. One of my friends, he's our accountant actually. He owns his business, and he says all the time, he's like, look, the chief concern for any company should really be influence. He says it's not. He's like, I don't look at dollars and cents when I'm building my business from the ground up. He says, what does money get you? He's like, money gets you the opportunity to be able to do things. He's like, so if you can do those same things just because you influence somebody, he's like, that's just as good, if not better than money, especially when you're starting out. So for you, like people pay big money to be able to get 300 people to a show. The fact that you've developed a machine and a mechanism, I think that's the eyeballs that you're able to draw. Putting 300 butts in seats is like a promoter's dream. And so now it's just backtracking and figuring out like, okay, how do I turn this into a business? And for us, like we're here in part because like, hey, this guy's got eyeballs, he has influence, he has a pulse on what's going on. You have like a lot of knowledge about new projects coming in. So
which is something that we're struggling to get a pulse on the music scene. And like, we're not exact, like we've had to make that conscious effort to like, okay, we gotta like really kind of like integrate into the music scene out here,
because we gig, but when we gig at these corporate events and weddings, we don't get to see all the people who are performing. So like we're not in the scene visiting other people's shows. So for you to have that knowledge, who's popping off, what are the hot locations, what's the what are people listening to, where do they want to go, like all of that knowledge is worthwhile for us. So like when we're trying to put butts in seats at our new venture, we're going to come to you and be like, hey, we need to get 150 people in here. We want to throw a badass show. We want to do something for Coachella. That's like your influence and the brand that you've developed. We're going to want to tap into that. And for you, it's going to be price it appropriately. And for us, it's going to be realizing that early. So we want to partner with you early while you're still building and be like, hey, we're going to build each other's,
that sounds dope. Because to be honest, like there's no, I guess, I was saying, no, you guys are the only other people that are trying to do something similar.
Yeah.
And that's so dope. Like when you reached out and I started seeing your vision, I was like, oh shit, like that's super dope. Like that's literally
It's the same goal. We got
Avenida,
same
we're doing
goal.
everything.
it's
I would suggest for you guys to definitely do a podcast again.
hey.
Because that's so easy content. So this episode is like 2 hours, like I was saying. You could literally make 200 fucking videos out of this.
Yeah.
Because one could be 4 seconds.
Yeah.
One could be a 30-second part. One could be a minute part. One could be 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Another one 17 seconds. One could be a mix of you performing live with something that you said about when you perform live. Like, oh, I like when we get booked at this one fucking venue, and then you show the venue with like, and you guys playing it.
Yeah.
Like it's
The
infinite.
Dreamboats do a good
if
job
you
of that.
actually had the time to fucking sit down and like those influencers that you said that actually once a month they go and they like that. You literally say like for the next 12 hours I'm gonna make 100 pieces of content from the footage we have.
Yeah.
Boom, like you could actually do it if you set the time. But
that'll be one of our in January. You know what we should do? We've wanted to for a long time to build the scene. We think you need to have a group of people in various kind of roles and positions. You got to have people in leadership. You got to have people who are doing what you're doing, which is like you're not a musician, but you're doing all the auxiliary stuff that musicians need. You know, then you have the musicians, and so at some point, I think we need to gather like a small group and make it like a think tank for like, what are the things that we need to do to elevate the scene?
just
How
let
can
me
we
know.
do
I'm
this?
down.
We should sit down at the beginning of the year.
Meetings.
Exactly. And have
that's
like
perfect.
once a quarter, just sit down and be like, hey, what do we need to see? How can we help each other?
Legion of Doom.
Yeah, no, it's gotta have a cool name. But a big part of it is, you know,
Council of
when we have
Elrond, bro.
physical space, Council of Elrond.
Council
you guys
of
get
Elrond.
it wrong. Hell yeah.
But yeah, we'll have a physical space to do it, a physical space to meet, and I think that's important. I think providing space like this, talking is thinking, and you know, talking through this process, you're like, oh, we should totally do that. Write it down, and then execute on it, and make it happen. I think we do these 3 times a year. We're all of a sudden going to start seeing a change, you know, at the macro
We
level.
should have him down to the space.
Yeah, we'll have you come out.
So I had my last studio was at the Indio food park.
Yeah,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
It was in there. It's actually in
Yeah.
there. So I had a podcast
remember
for
that.
like 6 months, 7 months, but we never opened because it was COVID. So we were doing podcasts in there, but my vision there was to provide a podcast space and rent it out like a recording studio.
Yeah.
So like you guys come in, the cameras are set up, the mics are set up. You come in for an hour, or you rent it out for an hour, 2 hours, and we do all the post production. You guys could probably do that right there.
Well, we'll have you come down. So
That'd be
the upstairs is in good enough shape to you'll kind of catch the vision for it. You can see the downstairs too. Give us your thoughts, man. You know, kind of like,
Yeah.
hey, this would be cool. This would be
Sure,
badass to
'cause
throw this.
I
in
know a
there.
lot of people that want to start podcasts, and it's hard.
It is.
Yeah,
It's hard.
it is.
Like
We
this.
have all the stuff, and we don't do it. so-
Yeah,
It's,
it's difficult.
yeah.
that would be a good way you guys can rent that out, you know, like per episode or another revenue stream for you guys. I could definitely see that. Because there's a big need for even just content creators in the valley. It's
Yeah,
very rare.
It's what really.
Oh, you know what? One of the guys just speaking to the whole valley, like from the other podcast, my co-host for Cotorreando Talento, he's like, anybody that comes from the East Coast or from Mexico right here, they all come through the valley.
Yeah,
'Cause
100%. The 10.
They're literally anyone leaving LA going to Mexico goes to the valley. Anyone going to
That's really
the East
why
Coast goes to the
like
valley.
the arena and some of these
everybody's
people, you
here.
can get some really
Everybody,
big
bro.
acts that are going to travel through here.
Yeah,
And that's how they
Huge
do it,
names.
is because everybody has to. The 10 is the only route.
Or even what's his name when Trump was making fun of the windmills, he's like, "Oh, it looks like scary Disneyland or some
Yeah.
shit, like ghetto
Yeah.
Disneyland," because none of them were working. It was
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
it was driving when they were all like not moving or something.
People
So like even like presidents fucking drive through
Oh,
here.
yeah,
So
you
it's
have
like,
Sunnyland.
Presidents come hang out down here.
yeah.
Sam
bro.
was.
And
Sam
then
did.
the
Yeah.
Acrisure
Okay.
Arena, I was talking to in another podcast. I'm like, you're getting. I didn't know it was gonna be A-list. celebrities.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, like as soon as I saw the
Oh,
lineup, I was
Lizzo's
like,
coming.
that's
You're like, oh shit,
Dude,
So
Paramore's
that-
coming, bro.
That's gonna put pressure on all the casinos to bring better acts instead of like kind of washed up people.
Yeah, dude, that's the thing. A lot of the
pressure.
people they bring up, it's just like,
So it's like if I'm a local,
Oh God, we're not gonna get hired again. You just killed 2 of our gigs.
Avenida hot takes. Avenida hot takes.
You realize we play the casino, right? Well, it's funny that you say that, but I think what is also going to happen as you see more and more of this investment is it's going to be incumbent on us to stake the ground, because you're going to see people realizing like, oh, I need to go plant. I need to go. So you have like Larry Ellison, Porcupine Creek. You've heard like Sensi. So he owns the BNP Paribas and the tennis tournament. So they just bought. It's called Porcupine Creek. We're doing some work up there, but like these are billionaires that are like, you know what? I need to own that whole golf course, or I need to come in. And so as you see Live Nation, as you see AEG moving in, and like you're gonna see A tier
just about to run the polo field.
exactly, and either the locals are going to have established themselves with enough of a niche, or somebody else is going to come out and they're going to say, you know what, big money, I'll build the thing that should have been built, and then the locals don't see it. And so for us, I think we have to see 2 or 3 steps ahead. We see that there's this kind of major investment in A-list celebrities. More and more people are going to start taking note, and we have to be set up to take advantage. Either we're going to get run over, or we're going to capture a lot of that money that's coming in because that's what happened with us in this booking company on a small scale. They're like, you guys are locals? Why don't you do it? We'll give you a cut, and we make good money off of that. And it's just, we were there, we were very good at what we did, and they trusted us to take care of it. And so I think with what you're doing, with what we're doing, we're positioning ourselves for a big surge that's coming. You see, the college, Cal State University, once they hit that threshold, there's an entire, political action committee set up just to turn that into Cal State Palm Desert.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you get all kinds of entitlement, you get students, you get dorms, you get, more money. It's just all of these things start converging at the same time, and it's an untouched gem. The desert is really unmined, and we have to be prepared for when all of these resources start coming through. It's if we strategize, then we can really capitalize on that. And then every Thursday we're at Cazuela's Cafe. Greatest, I know Giselle said this too. They are one of the best venues to play at. They're so much fun.
I actually did all the tile there.
Hey,
all
all right,
the kitchens and the bathrooms.
Shoot, Ray, they treat us so well. They give us great food. They let us play whatever we want. Yeah. So we're there every Thursday. Right now it's 5:30 to 8:30. So if you want to come out and hear what we're about, throw out your requests. We try to get as much as we can in there.